You're unmuted.
We have to behave ourselves.
Unfortunately.
Behave. Behave. Why do you want to be one?
What did I tell you about fire chiefs?
Did many things.
Yeah.
Suck.
Well, welcome to the January 13th meeting of the Board of Commissioners in the Frank Walter House Boardroom. For our new guests, you can tell we're very disciplined about our starting time, literally to the second. Could I have roll call, please?
Jeanette,
Here.
Markey,
Here.
Matthews,
Here.
Nye,
Here.
Roloffs,
Here.
Sauer,
Here.
Craig.
Here.
I didn't see.
Each stand for the invocation and pledge. Rhonda, please.
You didn't notice me. That's all
I
right.
thought you volunteered.
That's all right. Gracious God, we thank you for the ability to be here today and to serve the community of Benzie County. We ask for your guidance and wisdom in the decisions we make today. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our heart be pleasing in your sight. We offer this prayer in your son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of
the United States of America
and
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rhonda, thanks for doing that on the fly.
No worries, anytime.
We have the agenda in front of you. I would like to add one thing under committee appointments. We need to appoint an EDC interview committee, so when we get there. But with that addition, is there any other additions? Hearing none, I'd look for a motion.
Craig moves to approve the agenda as amended.
Matthew seconds.
Thank you. Additional comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have the minutes of December 9th.
Trig moves to approve the minutes as corrected.
No, presented, because
Presented. It was,
it was the sixth that was
Thank you.
amended.
Thank you.
9 seconds.
Comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Then we have our organizational minutes from January 6th.
And that was the one that needed to be corrected. I had spelled Commissioner Trig's first name incorrect on one of the motions.
Okay. Yeah, so Trig moves to approve the minutes of January 6th as corrected.
Additional comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. We'd move to our first public comment. We're overwhelmed with public today. Let's move in then to the elected official and department heads updates. Does anybody like to address the commission?
Morning, everyone.
Morning, John.
Morning.
On my tradition, and I like it. You have this in your packet, but they're so nice. If you didn't get one in the mail,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, hi, John.
We need to cut back on printing. Thanks, Josh.
No, I didn't leave one for myself, so you're gonna have to bear with me
Here.
on page numbers that I have. Well, good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. I first apologize. I didn't make it in before the holidays. We had a grand
For
deadline.
the record, would you identify yourself, please?
Sure. Thank you, Art. My name is John Troop. I'm the Executive Director of the Benzie Conservation District. Excited to be here with you today to share our annual report and some highlights from the Benzie Conservation District from the year. In a nutshell, it's been a fantastic year for the district. The report really highlights them. We'll get into that in a minute. But truly stellar in terms of programs. We've monitored more water quality. We are doing more research with partners. And really throughout the report and in our work, we're laying the foundation for how our entire region is going to protect water quality for the foreseeable future. And that's really exciting. Quick note, this year for you to just know as our commissioners, it's not without challenges. This year in particular, state and federal budget cuts have affected our folks in Benzie County. So two things I just want to point to so you're informed. The U.S. Department of Agriculture works through our office. And so it's just true that the USDA budget has been cut. And so this is programs for farmers and forest landowners to do sustainable practices on their land. So maybe that's a forest management plan so that an owner can make, informed decisions about how they want to manage their woodlot, or for a farmer to install, say, a manure containment facility, pesticide containment facility, cover cropping, things that have benefits outside of that farmer or forest landowner's property. These things are still happening. They're still going on, but we have lost 1 of 3 of our USDA employees, and there are just much less grant dollars available. So this is a real impact I just want you to be aware of. Likewise, in Benzie County, across the state, Michigan has reduced spending in invasive species management. And so in Benzie County, the big one we're really concerned about from a statewide perspective is hemlock woolly adelgid. So our beautiful hemlock trees, especially near Lake Michigan, communities in Frankfort and Alberta and the surrounding areas have really been impacted. Work continues. We have a really strong cooperative invasive species management area. So that group remains healthy and active, but the impact for our constituents is likely that if you're going to receive treatment to save your hemlock trees, it's going to come at a cost share instead of it being a free service. So I wanted to highlight those 2 challenges right out of the gate to say, it's not all sunshine and roses, but it mostly is. So with that in mind, I want to, I encourage you to read this report cover to cover. It's really phenomenal. It's written by our staff. It highlights some of the specific work that we're doing, place-based education, research on aquatic invasive species, you name it. But to distill it down to some, impact by the numbers, page 14, this is, sort of the year in a snapshot, if you will, in terms of how many events we've done, how many youth and people we're engaging, the number of public inquiries we're having, and a brief look at our work throughout the year. Truly remarkable. And in many cases, we're staying steady in terms of environmental education and really increasing water quality monitoring. The drastic increases in our work this year are by and large thanks to our staff being incredibly successful in getting grants for this work. So if you look on the right side of that page, our financial report, we are so appreciative of our Benzie County millage. If you don't know, the Benzie Conservation District was the first in the state to go for a millage for its operations. And since then, I think it's only 13 or 14 of the 75 districts across the state that have followed suit. But as you can see by the numbers, that brings in $216,000. About 10 years ago, that was probably 100% of our revenue. But our staff really takes that money and tries to leverage it as far as we can. So this year, we've received over $230,000 in grants. Our donations continue to increase as we continue to get more sophisticated. Our sales and services are up. So we're taking this, the taxpayer dollar, and really extending it by getting these additional dollars and bringing them into Benzie County. That work, again, like I mentioned, the grants this year have really been focused on our water quality work. And so that's why we've been able to add a new staff member. It's earlier in the report, but Dr. Eric Moore is coming to us from Eagle. And before that, he worked for the Alaska's version of the DNR. We're very lucky to have him. He's our watersheds coordinator, and he's really expanding our work in that arena. But there are more opportunities and we're looking forward to a really exciting 2026, continuing to go after grants, build new partnerships, you name it. That's, the really short snapshot version of our year. I would be happy to entertain any questions you have for me.
Questions from the commissioners? Don, I'll have a couple for you if I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're showing us last year's budget, but you said that you're gonna have some revenue decline this year. What does your budget look like for this year?
It's a little, our budget this year looks very similar. It's kind of funny that, so the US Department of Agriculture and the invasive species funding goes down. Those aren't captured within our budget. Those are outside entities. So our budget looks almost the same.
Did I hear you say though you had to reduce an employee as a result of budget cut?
That was a USDA federal employee. Yep. So not captured in our budget, but they work through our office.
So essentially your funding level stayed level.
Ours did. Yes.
Okay, all right. And when I'm traveling around the community and when we talk about these things, it's ironic, nobody wants to pay for it, but everybody asks, is there ever going to be an expansion of boat cleaning at different sites? Can you speak to that?
Yes, I can. So this year, we plan to do a small expansion. I would say it's not an enormous expansion in terms of boat washing. What we have is a much bigger expansion in support that's available for folks to take this on. So our approach has changed from get out there with as much employees and folks to wash as many boats as possible. And instead, based on our experience, what's been more successful longer term is in supporting groups. So we lead the boat washing collaborative. And so we are available to support groups to install permanent boat wash units, to give training for permanent boat wash units. And this work has expanded outside of Benzie County because as you look at page 5, that really messy map, those lines are data that our staff have collected in boater movement. So you can see there are an incredible number of, I think that's Bear Lake, incredible number of folks coming from Bear Lake, heading up to Crystal Lake, over to Long Lake and Traverse City, up to Lake Leelanau, and everywhere in between. And so our aquatic invasive species program has taken a regional approach because the invasive species that Long Lake and Traverse City has, we know are coming our way. So we've done a lot of work in Silver Lake and Traverse City, Arbutus Lake and Traverse City, Bear Lake and Manistee, in getting these groups with their own capacity. So it's a bit of a nuanced answer. Yes, but it's a longer term and our role looks more like a support role in getting folks what they need to run their own programs, because we think that'll be more sustainable if they have their own capacity, if that makes sense.
So in the past, you began actually having some staff at select times at boat launches. Will that continue and where would they be at?
Yes, and it will continue. That's true. It's and it will continue this year. We target peak times, right? So our staff are really busy around the 4th of July weekend and that whole surrounding week. We hit high traffic boater sites and we really target special events. So when the Ironman comes through, we're part of that effort to wash all of the, emergency vehicles that are in the water. When there's a, yacht club regatta, we're in there to wash all of those boats because those like high traffic times are the most likely times we're going to get an introduction of a new species.
And did I understand correctly from people I'm hearing around the community, did you increase the number of signage that you have out to encourage people to clean?
Yes. Yep. For the past 5 years, we have installed 5 to 10 new, clean, drain, dry signs. And these days they come with, brushes and the whole bit every year. So every year we're installing or updating 5 to 10 new signs in different launches.
Rhonda?
I would just ask, would you want to give us just a high level overview of the zone tool that's being
Yes.
developed?
Yes, thank you. I almost went there anyways. And Rhonda referred to it as the zone tool. That's what we are calling it now. So thanks to the commissioners for supporting what we are calling the Benzie Zoning Ordinance Nexus. So the online tool that will have all of the authoritative zoning codes alongside wetland information, steep slopes, LiDAR digital elevation models, floodplains, you name it. So folks can make informed decisions about, where we're having development. Or if you're a homeowner, what are the rules and regulations where you live? It was a little bit of a slow start. We had some challenges. We want to be really in sync with Benzie County equalization, getting things going, but it's really off to the races now. We just saw a draft, not even a draft version. We just saw a first look from Gary from Caligo, the contractor who's putting this together. We're going to be meeting every 2 weeks to make sure progress continues and that this is looking and functioning exactly how it's meant to. And that is for our landowners in Benzie County, for our zoning administrators, for our planning commissions, this has to be a valuable tool for them. So that's the idea. It's very early in development now, but so far it's looking like it's exactly what we wanted. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
For the question. Anybody else? Don, thanks for taking the time to be here today.
Thank you very much. I've got more reports in the back. Unfortunately, I can't stick around for the rest of the meeting today, but I'll be back sooner. Thank you all.
We don't blame you. Did I go with you? Is there any other department heads or Michael? If you would identify yourself, please.
Of course. Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Beach. I work in the equalization department here. I haven't been back since I was appointed, so I just wanted to update you guys on our progress. When I began, we faced a significant hurdle of our state mandated reporting not yet being completed. I'm happy to report that has been completed. Our sales studies, economic condition factors, and appraisal studies have all been completed, submitted to our local unit assessors and submitted to our state tax commission rep, and they have been accepted. Staff downstairs continues to process sale documents and new addresses. Local board review changes have been processed, and more generally, I'd describe our department as caught up. Those deadlines have been met, and looking at a broader view, professional development is underway with Kat in our office in the midst of her certification as a Michigan Certified Assessing Officer, while Matt just completed his exam this Monday for his MCAT certification, and we're expecting good news there. Beyond that, we're looking to sit down with 911 to possibly start discussing an update to our addressing ordinance to maybe streamline that workflow. And that's just the beginning stages of that. And that's pretty much all I have to report right now.
That's good report. Any questions or comments? Yes, please.
This is my wife's a treasurer and the address problem. I don't know, before it was the local equalization directors or assessors were supposed to be doing this, but for some reason it's not working very smoothly. And I don't know how, if there's an approach that we can take to make it work better.
By that, are you referring to addressing as it relates to tax bills or like assigning? Yeah. So prior to my start, I understand that the previous equalization director had taken an initiative to kind of move where that data lives from the county level to the local level. And so for that process, how I've seen that process be successful in other counties is it requires almost 100% participation from our assessors in the fact that if we have a good data set and they're going to start maintaining their own data set and be responsible for that, they need to take a snapshot of our data and use that as their starting point and then make changes. And I think for the majority of our units, that's happened very well. But with speaking with my staff, I think there's maybe one or two where that has been an issue. And it's something I'm aware of and something we're working on correcting. Unfortunately, since those diverged before I started here, the resolution is a little bit more involved because now there's no clean data set for those units. So it's going to require a little bit more legwork to go through and find all those address changes that have occurred since that bad data got introduced and get those cleaned up.
Okay. One of my biggest concern is the cost of postage that we seem to be throwing away by the time we mail these things out. And if there's a way to correct this, you know, what I was hoping was possible, I appreciate. Well, it sounds like there's a coordination problem.
Yeah, I think it's what we're experiencing is a little bit of the bumpy road after that big change that occurred. I think it was a couple years ago now. So most of our mailings are required by statute. So as far as flexibility there's not a lot. The one thing we could think about doing, just spitballing up here, would be I don't know if we do this already, but perhaps sending multiple bills in one envelope to property owners who own more parcels.
I'm sure that would help.
Yeah.
It's just, how do you get the correct addresses and maintain them? That's. I used to work for the post office, so don't hold that against me, but
Absolutely. It's something that we'll
Yeah.
continue to explore, and hopefully I'll have, some positive developments to share with you guys in the coming meetings.
Michael?
Yes.
Anybody else have questions?
Michael, have you been able to connect with John Troop, who was a speaker just prior to you?
Very preliminarily, our office is, I kind of glossed over those studies. It was a Herculean lift to get those completed. So it is on my radar to touch base.
Good. I just,
Had a little bit of issues with Gary, getting our state data, but, it's on my list here to.
okay, excellent,
Excellent.
because the board was very clear that this tool shouldn't cause a burden for your office. But they're very eager to have your input on what's developed.
No, it's on the short list for sure.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Prior to your getting here, Michael, we had a hiccup with the Transportation Authority on their L 4029. Has there been any changes made as a result of that? Have we had to make changes?
Yes, it's an item further down on your agenda where we're amending our apportionment report again today to reflect that error that occurred on the Benzie Transit Authority. So that change is certainly, this is kind of the last step of that change. That resolution's already occurred, and as everyone knows, new tax bills were sent out with those corrections. As far as from a process standpoint, certainly, yes, there's going to be a process where all ballot language is reviewed, and we still haven't decided whether that responsibility or authority, whatever word you want to use, is going to rest with our local taxing authorities or with our office. That decision hasn't been made yet, but the ballot language being checked is certainly part of the process moving forward.
All right, good. We'll be interested. I think I certainly will. And if there's any process changes, and I hate to build new policies for what should be an isolated incident, but it had a financial impact that the county ended up absorbing. So
Certainly, and I think the idea of our taxing authorities wanting to put things before voters before they go into effect, I certainly see the logic of that, and I want to be able to make sure that that's not a sticking point in the future.
and what you're commenting to is that the voters approved this in 24, not to be effective really till 27. So
Correct.
got it. All right, I appreciate the update. Anything you need to add, Katie? All right, thanks for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Any other reports from departments or elected officials? Bridget?
Happy New Year. Bridget Hassig with Benzie Senior Resources. I wanted to say that what we're beginning to focus on a little bit more in the beginning of the new year and probably through the first quarter or two of the new year is still kind of rebuilding the foundation of the team and doing team development and leadership development. But also, we just applied for a grant that I'm feeling very confident about, where we're going to be able to take a look at having movement classes led by a physical therapist and pushing that out into Lake Ann and into the Thompsonville area, as well as the Gathering Place. So you might recall I mentioned last year we wanted to start taking a look at doing satellites versus just expand where we're at, because I don't think that's honestly the issue. And so we have a person now on staff, Michelle Francis, who is focusing specifically on program development and collaboration with the greater community. So we're beginning to do that more. I think we're also going to be seeing in terms of fund development and revenue that grants actually are becoming a little bit more, grant makers are becoming more sophisticated, but I think nonprofits are rising to that. And so I think some of the grants that we're going to be always looking at is a combination of working with other nonprofits so that we're collaborating versus competing with each other, because it's too small to compete against each other for things like that. We're also taking a look again with additional funding. So this is outside of the existing budget as we add these initiatives to be able to do, I'm calling it a boot camp, but we have a number of incredible directors within Benzie Senior Resources, and we may be inviting actually some partner organizations, because I was extended an opportunity to do a leadership development like 6-week program that will help the directors that we have learn supervision techniques, recognition techniques, different ways to build their teams as they've gotten more responsibility since I began last year. It's a year. The other thing is that in April, we're going to be doing a direct care worker, May, a direct care worker training, and we're doing a lot of the building for that right now. That is in partnership with MSU Osteopathic School. And they have had a grant for several years to be able to do direct care worker training, which we'd open to the public. We will do a segment with just our home health aides and CNAs, but we want to be able to open that up to be able to lend itself to possibly finding more direct care workers, whether it's for Benzie Senior Resources or the Maples, or it's caregivers that need more skill sets to take care of people in the home. And so we'll be looking at that as well.
Questions or comments? We appreciate the update.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks. And it's going to be a longer discussion.
The impact of the snow we just had.
Oh, okay, not.
Exactly.
I got you. Troy? There's been a suggestion that you speak to the commissioners and the public about the impact on the snow we had, and not for the later subject, but an update on what's happening at the road commission.
Equipment maintenance.
Equipment and maintenance.
Troy Hines, Benzie County Road Commission. I put a post up, I think it was yesterday, but in 2023, we had 12.5 inches on January 11th. In 2024, we had 46.5, I believe. And then this year we're already at 63.5 inches. So it's been a pretty nasty winter for us, but the worst part is this freezing and unfreezing stuff that we're dealing with today. We sent all of our trucks out today on gravels and back roads. Everything was kind of slushing up out there. So they're down there trying to peel them off. But other than that, I heard, I think Muskegon is planning on putting frost laws on pretty quick. So that's something we gotta keep an eye on, because that would not be good for anybody. But other than that, we've just been busy plowing snow and putting together bid packages for asphalt. Brian, we gotta order some more underbody blades, wing blades. But we've been doing pretty good. Been keeping up on maintenance. We've had, I think, a couple accidents so far this year with cars sliding into our trucks, which seems to happen every year. But yeah, one was a cross conveyor got damaged. It's about $10,000 worth of damage. And the one that happened over the weekend hit one of our brand new trucks, hit the wing. I'm assuming that's going to be somewhere probably around 30 grand worth of damage, but we'll see what happens there.
Questions or comments?
Any of this stuff insured, I guess?
Oh yeah. Yep. It's all insured. We have a deductible. I think it's about $1,000, but it's all insured.
Thank you.
Additional comments?
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for taking that on the fly. And Bob, thanks for prompting me.
Not a problem.
And Troy's going to be here for a later discussion, correct?
Good.
Very good. Any other department heads or elected officials? Seeing none, let's go into, well, before we move along, I see that there's an extensive report from the animal shelter in here. Is there anything you want to comment on that, Katie?
No, with the new staff up at the animal shelter, they're working really hard to get more information out into the community about what's kind of happening up at the animal shelter. So you'll see more of these reports in your packets where you haven't in the past, just so you guys are informed as to what's kind of going on with the animal shelter. They've expanded hours. We have hours on Saturdays and Sundays from 10 to 3 now. Our new officer has received her certification from MDARD. So there's a lot of good new things happening at the animal shelter. So you'll just see a lot more information related to the shelter so that you have that knowledge.
Yeah, I just want to offer a good job. I don't think we've seen this kind of reporting in the past, and I was surprised to see it in the packet, and it was welcome, and want to express appreciation for whoever put that together.
You'll see it more.
I'm glad you commented on that because I'm curious, is this software that's always been available or is this new software?
We've had this software about 3 years now, so it's been available.
And would the commissioners like to continue seeing
Yes.
that depth of information?
Yes,
Or-
please.
Okay, good. Anything else, Katie? Any other comments or questions for Katie on this subject? If not, now we'll move into finance. You have the bills in front of you. Who did the AP approvals this past week?
I did.
Training.
I'd look for either discussion or a motion.
I will make the motion to pay the bills in the amount of $864,295.60.
Additional comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes,
motion carried.
very good. We have a presentation today from Central Wellness and Ferris State. Chip, and I don't know who's going to introduce the subject, but if you could introduce your guest, please.
Sure.
Joseph Chip Johnston, Executive Director for Central Wellness. Started when I was 12.
We'll accept that.
Right. I would happily present today Dr. Carolyn Sotheby and her associate. They, as some of you may know, we partnered with the Benzie County Sheriff's Department to provide a behavioral health critical incident deputy to extend our reach and for safety concerns for our employees. And we engaged with Ferris State University to, as I call it, watch us like ants and to make suggestions to the program. So what hopefully what you will get is a presentation on that. And so I think without further ado, I'll turn it over.
Morning, I'm Carolyn Sotheby. I am a professor at Ferris State University. Thank you for taking the time for our presentation today. This is Ashley Bergman. She's a former graduate student who assisted me on research with this. So between the two of us, if there's questions or comments, we will field them. So I believe Katie put the full packet. So if you want to follow along, you certainly can. There's a lot of information in here and data. So I am open to fielding questions or clarification as I'm speaking. I will probably walk through each section pretty quickly due to the nuance. But again, please ask me questions as I'm going through.
The only thing I'd ask is as you're going through your presentation, keep us on track of what page you're on, okay?
Oh, absolutely. Yep, I sure will. So the first point you can see just as an overview of our data points. So this is just to give you some information about how we collected the data and how we analyzed the data once it was collected. So you can see we started in 2023. I was here last year to give a brief presentation of where we were at. And during that time is when we noticed some discrepancies in the research in terms of our data collection, which I'll speak to later. So since that time, we've completed our study and we have the data completed here. And so what you'll see are the final findings from our research. So the way that we were looking at the data was our 911 dispatchers receive calls, and those dispatchers make a discernment at that point based on their own training and their policies whether this is a behavioral health call. So behavioral health will be mental health concerns and substance use disorders sort of combined. So When they received that call, the idea was that they would be able to dispatch our officer who was trained in this critical crisis intervention, so the CIT training. There's also, as you'll see on here, the NCIT is non-CIT. So those are our deputies and officers that did not receive this specific training. What we learned a year into it was that there actually wasn't this purposeful designation like we had intended. So once we learned that 911 was receiving calls and dispatching either the CIT or the non-CIT trained officers, that was not following our original pathway. Because the data was created in a way and we were gathering that, we could not stop and adjust how that was the data was collected because we had already collected data for a year. So we make a note and we have some plans kind of to move forward, but that is a significant piece of data to know when you're looking at the rest of the findings. So we looked at then you'll see on the very last page of your packet is the CAD form. So this was the template that was developed for our officers to complete for these specific calls. The data that we collected this data and analyzed it based on how it was written. So that's another significant piece. As researchers and doing the analysis, we can only use the data that was based on the CAD sheets. So if there was notes and there wasn't context around it, if maybe there are some discrepancies, we could what we call clean that data and try to make there some consistencies, but we can't adjust data and we can't make any assumptions around it. So what you see is based exactly on how the officers completed the forms. The total notes that we had were 37. You can see that we had 11 of these 37 were responded by our CIT trained officer, 23 by our non-CIT, and then we had 3 that were unknown. That's because it wasn't documented on the form. So we're not sure whether it was CIT or non-CIT. So demographics, this is still just on our first page, kind of breaks down a little bit more information around who these folks were that we received the information on. This is consistent with the composition around Benzie County. So primarily Caucasian, 51%. The most of the calls were also male, and you can see primarily adults, not juveniles. The next page on my packet, I flip over. The next area are the month and the days of the calls. So we were also trying to get information. I should back up just a second to say a main piece of this research was what we call exploratory, to gather information. The idea wasn't to provide you or any of us with a complete understanding of this, more of let's have a foundation. We know what we are interested in looking at, and let's kind of work out the kinks. Let's find what we need to adjust in our research. Let's hear from the folks doing the work. Let's get information from the public, from the commissioners, and we can build off of where we're at. And we were successful in doing that. We learned a lot, and this is the information that we're going to be presenting. So looking at the month and days, these are just patterns. We want to find out, are there patterns around when the behavioral health calls come in? Are they mostly in the night? Are they, the 2 a.m. crisis calls that come in? What our data shows was actually the calls were coming in mostly in January, and there was a trend, some more in March, but there was a decline in the summer and fall months. Sort of interesting. I think I sort of anticipated a bit more in the summer just because it's rural and maybe there's more shenanigans happening in the summer with folks, and that was not evident in our research. We also saw that most of the calls came in during the weekday. And that was another assumption that I think I came into with assuming maybe there would be more calls on the weekend. Again, with some of those similar, those thoughts, but that was not the case. So flipping over, the next page for me is now time of the calls. So again.
You said we could ask questions along the way.
Please, yeah.
So just to have you speak to that, the demographic breakdown doesn't surprise me.
Okay.
But I'm still trying to wrap my head around how January is, when we have the least amount of people here, is much greater as a percentage than other months. You expressed surprise to that also. Can you dive a little deeper into that, why that would be?
I can't right now because we don't have any other data. I think it would be interesting to hear from those, like the officers, those of you that live in the community to kind of troubleshoot that. Why might that be happening? And I think we do need more information to kind of make some of those like a hypothesis. Part of my wondering, and I speak to this later, is how the calls were coming in. I think for me, the largest takeaway was that that intersection between the 911 dispatchers, how they were coding the call disposition when the officer goes out to the scene, that might not have aligned with what the 911 their operator received. So they go out to the call and maybe it came in as a welfare check, but when they get out there, it is clearly more of a behavioral health concern, but it wasn't designated that way. So I'm wondering about that as the months and the times as well. So for instance, if in January, there's, depending on who the 911 operator is, there's some subjectivity also that can come in how they do their jobs and discern the calls. So we don't know if I am the 911 dispatcher and I receive a call and I do my training and my protocol and I deem that call as behavioral health. If Ashley is doing the same job and she's doing it in February, but she doesn't consider that a behavioral health call, then we won't have data on that. So I am interested in doing more collaboration with 911. I think that for me is the main takeaway of this is we need to integrate more and be on the same page about consistency on how the calls are coming in, how they're coded, and then when and how officers are being dispatched on scene. How are they categorizing that? So that I don't know if that I even answered your question, but
Well, it does and doesn't. It shows that it has more research to do, and we're probably limited to what kind of data you can collect. But like as I remember this report, you don't break it down by age groups. But I'm wondering, could it be because people feel more isolated in January, February? I mean,
it's
When you
possible.
talk about behavioral health, I'm trying to distinguish the
Mhm.
difference between people in emotional crisis
Mhm.
and people just acting odd.
Mhm.
Is that fair?
I think that your point is exactly what we're talking about, that what you may see as an odd behavior, I may see as someone who's in a mental health crisis. My training is the lens I see through is to be aware of signs and symptoms of mental health and of substance use. If someone doesn't have that same training, the lens they see that behavior through could be different. So I think both can be true at the same time. It could be isolation, it could be a mental health, it could be someone just acting kind of weird. Regardless, our officers have to be in a position that they're going to be safe, that they're making decisions to keep community safe, but also understanding and being able to recognize when the citizen needs some more treatment, perhaps. Is it a mental health treatment or are they just kind of a weirdo acting odd? That decision, those, the decisions then in terms of treatment, going to jail, what's going to happen to them, really does make a difference in how they're trained and how they're looking at it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other
Yes,
Democrat?
I'm looking at the other side of the spectrum and I blame cold weather, actually. I see that October, November, not even on the list. And then I only see one occurrence in August and September. So 2 occurrences over an entire quarter. I don't know. It just seems to me that maybe that's just who's here, who's not here. People could blame lightness, darkness, brighter in the summertime. Who knows? But you're right. It could be just people are weird. But I just find that interesting that those 4 months, there's barely any call at all.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that because another point, and I talk about it later, is I think in the future, firming up more of the communication between the officers and my role or other research is doing more check-ins. How are you completing the form?
Right.
Are you doing it consistently? This is a burden. I mean, we don't, doing this sort of research, my goal was not to add more to our officers' plates. I mean, they already have a lot going on. So this form that they have to fill out, they need to do that. They need to fill out the form and they're busy and they have a lot going on. And it was new. It was a new practice to implement. So for me, I think in hindsight, that would have been something I would have done a bit more of is check in because I wonder now as the researcher during those times, did they fill them all out?
Right.
I don't know. I don't have that data, but that would be that's an excellent piece to be thoughtful about moving forward.
And I'm not sure if you're looking for our input as to why
Please, yeah.
January is the biggest month, but I do know I've had a conversation with a resident recently who talked about seasonal employment and her child struggling with the fact that during the summer months, they were ably employed and connecting with people and drawing an income. And during the months, when it gets cold here, they were not able to work, and that caused depression. And so I just kind of connected that input with the data that I saw in here.
Appreciate it. And even seasonal affective. I mean, we know that it gets darker. People, like you're saying, there's isolation. So it's a good point. It could be. And there's really great options. I think what I want to highlight is gathering that data is possible. I mean, we are able to, once we hear from the public and we have some more data to kind of build off of, those are things that we can look at and develop systems so that we can be gathering the data that's accurate and then and analyzing it so that you all can kind of see the results. Yeah, thank you. That's great questions. So for times now, this for me is on, let's see, 1, 2, 3, page 3. I talked about this already briefly, but I'll just highlight again. The call volume was highest during the afternoon and the evening hours, and there was a decline in our overnight calls. And again, I think this is all similar to the same kind of information I was saying, that we are only able to report out on how the forms were filled out. So again, not knowing, did they miss any forms? What could be happening during this time to have a different decline during the overnight? Length of the outcome. One of the pieces that we were looking at is knowing how complex behavioral health is in general and the response time to this. Officers were having to go to an emergency department, waiting 12, 13, 14 hours for an assessment to be completed. And that's a lot of time that is not spent doing their job. They're sitting in an emergency department. And so we were looking at whether there would be a difference with the training for the CIT deputy going out compared to someone without that training. And in this case, there was a little bit of a difference. There's not a lot of data to maybe, we can't generalize this, but our CIT deputy had an average of 69 minutes from the time of going out on the call to a resolution, meaning they went to Munson, they received treatment at Central Wellness, compared to our non-CIT officers, that was 75 minutes. So we definitely need some more data to make any sort of formal conclusion around that. And again, we have to make sure that the forms are filled out accurately to get that data.
For the benefit of those that are listening in, CIT,
Crisis intervention training.
thank you.
So if you've turned over the page, the next one is our comparison of the call outcomes and our call disposition. This is the kind of the meat of the work that we looked at in trying to understand a little bit more about what types of calls are coming in, categorize them, and then the outcomes of those specific calls. So you can see that the common call disposition were mental health concerns, suicidality, and possible psychosis. We combined, Ashley and I looking at the data, there were many forms that were filled out with multiple boxes checked. So mental health, substance use, welfare check. And again, part of that is the way the call comes in. The deputy is responding based on what the information they have from 911. That wasn't always the case when they went out to the scene. So the way that our deputies were viewing the scene and how they would categorize it may have been different from what the 911 operator originally put in the call disposition. So when we looked at the data, we combined, because there were so many that had multiple options written down, and we made this one combined section so that we would be able to kind of look at, it wasn't only mental health, it wasn't only substance use, there was this combination of calls. And the end point for most of these calls was Munson Hospital. So of any of the options that was highlighted primarily, which talks about then that is a central location that our deputies are taking our folks to. So then on the next page is a little bit more information about the disposition narrative. This is where I talk about the combination of the category, and you can see that the combination was more than one of all of the dispositions together. Suicidality was a little bit lower. There was 14 calls for that, but primarily between both our CIT trained deputy and our non-CIT trained responses, the combination of calls occurred the most. So again, this is combining suicide, mental health, possible psychosis, and substance use. So these were our original categories that the officers had. You can see on your CAD sheet, they have a certain boxes that they can check. And so that's what we determined our data based on how they were filled out. So the last piece of data is in regards to in lieu of incarceration or diverting folks from incarceration. This was really very exploratory. We were looking at this if a deputy purposefully had a choice to have someone go to jail and be incarcerated versus this is clearly a behavioral health concern. This person needs treatment. The community would be better served if they were receiving treatment as opposed to putting them in jail. And of our 37 responses, the majority were not diverted. But again, that wasn't purposeful with our deputies. That wasn't a discussion that we were that we had with them. It was more, again, exploratory. So this would be something that we would certainly be looking at in the future. Any questions before I kind of finalize, like talk about some of the strengths or limitations about the demographics or the tables with the data?
Just some clarification without belaboring it. And I'm looking at it now from a financial perspective. I'm going to assume that if people aren't incarcerated, there's a savings to the community. Sheriff, would that be fair to assume that? Okay. And for the benefit of people listening in, how much of this is being supported by local tax dollars?
I don't think, I guess I would defer to Chip, but we received a grant through the Michigan Endowment. So the funding for this specific research was not included, or not part of tax dollars. It was a specific grant.
I wanted to stress that because I think it's a great service that we've implemented now for probably about 3 years.
Just over 2, yeah.
Yet we're able to do that without leveraging county tax dollars to do it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So a couple, just to highlight the strengths. Again, you can read more. There's some nuance in here, but ultimately this was exploratory. What we wanted to do was gather more data, find out what we can improve on, learn from the deputies themselves, learn potentially from our central wellness staff, from the folks with the lived experience who have been through these processes, to gather some information and then build on that to make improvements. And we were successful in that. I think we've got some really great data to move off of. It's also helps enhance and I think demonstrate the possibility of this unique coordination between a sheriff's department, our community mental health, and our 911 dispatchers. So it really did demonstrate this is possible. It's feasible. We want to gather some more data to improve it, but it can be, we can have more data completed in other counties and maybe look at expanding this with other areas as well. I think the other piece that we found was the strength in communication and transparency. So when I was here last year and met with the 911 supervisor and learned about a little bit of this discrepancy, that it was very helpful to learn from all of the players and me as a researcher be able to have some communication and fold them in, as opposed to being so siloed that there's great work happening at 911, excellent work happening with the deputies and at CMH. But the through line, the ability to kind of see how we can all work collaboratively, a lot of time doesn't happen in communities. And in this case, we were able to do that, which I think I need to say is a testament to Central Wellness and our deputies being able to welcome a researcher in also. That can be scary for communities because you sometimes get information that you don't expect or might not want to hear, but they were very open and transparent and said, we want to know. We want to improve the safety and the wellness of our citizens. And so if you can help us with that, let us know. So I do think that's a significant strength that I want to highlight. In terms of limitations, there's always limitations when it comes to research. And for me, the main piece was learning about the pathway from 911, how the calls were coming in, what the scene looked like when the deputy went out, how they coded that, and then looking at the data lining up and having the similar language. So that's certainly something that we can work on. The 911 supervisor has been very transparent in willingness to work with us moving forward. And so that's certainly on the table, I think, to look at again and explore. I think the other piece is, in terms of limitation, is really just the limit that we had on qualitative data. So that's another piece that it wasn't built into this necessarily, but the idea that not about us without us, where we want to make sure that the deputies, I would love to be able to talk to them, do some interviews and find out, what is your perspective? You are out there doing this job, and how is it for you in this integration with behavioral health? I want to talk to the folks with the lived experience. So you have a behavioral health need. How was that addressed? What was the outcome like for you? Get some more information from them, certainly from our central wellness staff as well, and get some feedback more, again, qualitatively, anecdotally, of how this is impacting their lives, and also their ideas for making improvements. So that would be moving us kind of into this next steps. The funding for this now, we're past our funding point, so we're at the kind of deciding now how to seek more grant funding, looking at options for expanding this, not just in Benzie County, but potentially Manistee County and some other rural counties, working on what are some more research questions. So hearing from folks like you, other folks in the community, what do you want to know? What would be interesting and helpful for your community? So then we want to build systems in to gather that information. So if the next time we come back, we can answer some of the questions that you all have. I think that I want to field some more questions, but I want to end on this idea. This is your community. You know, I came in as an outsider to provide some research, but that piece of this is a rural area. It's unique. Your needs are unique. Your access to services are different than they are in where I live in Grand Rapids. So the ability to really connect all of you that are here, I think, is important. And I've been it's just been very welcoming also to come in and have everybody that I work with in the county open and willing to learn and grow. So I appreciate that. And I would love to field any more questions, anything I can clarify for the data.
Let's open it up to the commissioners.
Right. One thing I see it's on your form as well. I'd really like to know what the correlation is between substance abuse and these calls, essentially, especially since marijuana has become legal in the last few years. Alcohol has always been there.
Yep.
Just because that seems like it's a big social problem in the area anyway. So I kind of wonder if that's
So it's a great point, and it's something that I'm going to be taking notes on and what you're interested in learning. We didn't do any analysis to make causation or correlation. We didn't have enough of a data set. So we had 37 folks,
Right.
But absolutely, if we have some more data, those are things we can look at. How is there a causation between someone's marijuana use and their acting odd, or having a law enforcement come out? So that's certainly something we can look at when we have a larger data set.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
To the question, other commissioners, Tim?
Yeah, looking at the data points, I'm sure there's a lot of data points that our computer-aided dispatch automatically captures. I'm sure there's forms that the sheriff's deputies fill out automatically. I mean, are these data points looked at in conjunction with the forms that they filled out? Or I'm coming from a emergency medical thinking, because that's a piece that wasn't talked about in here as well. A lot of times emergency medical is involved in these things as well.
Absolutely.
And I do know that because there's a lot of forms I have to fill out for emergency medical,
Yes.
that a lot of this data may be captured there.
Yeah, it's a great point. This CAD sheet they complete a CAD note. So this was added on to their current CAD note. So it's additional information, but it was streamlined so that they had one form they were filling out. They already do this CAD. We just added on these extra pieces for them. But to your point, that is something that I did get a little bit of data from 911 that was redacted and confidential so that I could do a mini comparison. And I think you're right. There are more built-in, there's data out there that we could be pulling and generating to do a bit more of what you're saying.
I just also coming from an IT background, so I'm thinking there's databases, you could probably pull certain bits of data without the redacted data, so you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's a good point.
Brenda?
Yeah, I think there's an inclination, because this is so new, to think if in a situation a person isn't diverted from jail, that perhaps it wasn't necessary to have that CIT trained person there. So I think another measure that would be valuable to know is, was the person de-escalated? Did the person change from a crisis state to a stable state where they didn't need to be diverted to a hospital, they were put in jail, but the fact that a CIT trained officer was there did change what could have been a poor outcome because of that presence. I think that would be interesting to know.
Yeah, that's a great point. So we have a little bit of that because we were able to look at, for the call outcome, we have other outcome. So when that box was checked, then the deputies would say returned home or remained in the community. De-escalated, remained. So we did have that as an option, but unfortunately that wasn't completed. We don't have data.
And I do think even if the person is taken to jail, the program could still, in essence, be successful because the crisis state was eliminated.
Yes.
I guess that's my point.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that.
Other questions or comments? We appreciate it. Chip, anything you'd like to add?
Yes, and I really appreciate the input because we're learning as we go, and we're committed to continuing this program and continuing to engage with Ferris State. We will be looking for other grants, and there are opportunities out there. Before I go into that, I want to, and that's to offset our costs to make this last longer. Nothing to the county. That's the promise from us. So, as a sense of scale, 37 folks over 2 years interacting with the deputy here. We do about 10 screenings a month between the two counties. So that factors on a population of about 4 here, 3 to 5 a month here. So the fact that they're picking up like a quarter of that, if you will, for Benzie County is fairly significant to me. Our data sets are going to be small n numbers. This is why, for me, it's important to do this longitudinally. And so to the future, I have done presentations on this in New Orleans and other parts of the country. There is interest nationwide, but more importantly, within the state of Michigan, the Rural Transformation Grant for access to healthcare and behavioral health, Michigan just received $174 million, of which one of the individuals in New Orleans happens to be well-placed at the state of Michigan, is super excited about our program, has engaged and reached out to us to tap into that funding, not only to build on what we're doing here, but to take that to Leelanau County, for example, and Manistee County. So it's beginning to go. But, you know, the core is going to be here. We're going to build out from here and hopefully and learn the lessons here. So then with that, I'll stop.
Questions or comments for Chip?
Just have one, and I don't know why it dawned on me. Are the folks that were going through this process, are they consistently the same folks? Do we have repeat?
I would
maybe yes, maybe not.
Well, yeah, we do have some repeat folks, and we have intensive teams to monitor them. But a vast majority of folks that we interface with are unknown. Vast majority. One of the things I've learned through this was something that really caught me off guard was in talking to the coroner's office. A lot of suicides actually in our community are folks from other communities who wish to die in a peaceful place. And that's hard to get in the middle and stop. So. And with it.
Thank
Yeah. Any other questions?
Anything else for Chip? Chip, we appreciate you bringing the subject to us today, and also, ladies, Sheriff, is there anything that you want to add to this?
I'd just like to add that we have had for many years, unique relationship with our local Central Wellness. And Chip and I talked about this for a few years before it actually happened. And to think that these ladies got information gathered that is helpful, and that we can pursue other avenues with other counties that can reap the benefits that we have reaped through this relationship is cool. So I appreciate all that they do and that our officers do, and I look forward to continuing the endeavor with them.
Any comments or questions for the sheriff? And I would have one, and I appreciate the fact that you and I always speak with candor, but this is kind of a test program for this area, certainly for this area. How much has it changed? Is it a burden on you, or I'm gonna maybe ask Katie to speak to Central Dispatch. How much of a burden is it on those groups?
I don't think it's really a burden. Our officers are always being asked to do more. And they generally take it on the chin and take it very well. This is really a simple ask of them when it comes to the paperwork. As far as 911 is concerned, they're already taking the calls. So it's not really an added burden, except maybe there's some conversation to be had about what is actually, what their perception is and what do they think is actually going on that would help with getting to the end result, the end goal. So I don't think there's much of a burden at all in addition to what we already do.
And I want to piggyback something that Rhonda had made an observation on. Have you found, I know there's a very limited number of calls we're tracking, but have we found, has deputies found that they've been able to de-escalate certain calls because of this?
I feel strongly that they have. As you know, our world's evolving and we are asked to do different trainings all the time. Some mandatory, some not. We've taken an approach with our deputies through general training to get them some of the CIT. If it's not a full-blown CIT, it's something related to that so that we can try to de-escalate folks, in a proper way. And so that's how I feel about that. Our officers are well trained, and I think we've had very much success with handling them appropriately, all of these cases.
Very good.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for your comments.
Yep.
Probably need to bring this subject to a close. Anything else that needs to be said? Any other comments or questions from the commissioners?
Just one, can I get Dr. Sotheby's last name, the spelling of it? O-S. Thank you.
Very good. All right, thank you. With the commissioner's permission, I'd like to bring up the next subject, then we'll take a break after that. Is that okay? Because we've got some people waiting in the audience. So Katie, do you want to introduce the next subject, please?
Yes. So we have the road commission here today, various folks from the group. And over the last several weeks, myself and some commissioners, Art and Rhonda specifically, have been meeting off and on with the road commission to just kind of talk about what we're doing from here. As you know, the millage, the bond millage did fail at the ballot box, but it is very clear in the community that there is a need. We have a great need for the Benzie County Road Commission to establish a new facility for the trucks and such that we have in place. So what you have in front of you today is a notice of intent to bond. What we're approaching here today is to go about bonding in a different way. The other way that we went about it was to pay for the bond with millage dollars. This is to pay for the bond with the internal funds that the road commission has. given the state of changes at the state and federal level, the Road Commission will be receiving a great deal of additional funding through the new methodology that has been established at the state level. And so with those conversations, we feel that there is a pretty good comfort level as to the Road Commission being able to commit to refund or to pay back these bonds over a period of time. And so they're here today to kind of give an update as to where the project is and, you know, what they've learned from over the last year of talking about this in the public setting. And then we'll talk about moving forward with this notice of intent to bond. This type of bonding does allow for a 45-day referendum period. And so after the meeting today, we will publish in the local newspaper the notice, if it's adopted, we would publish the notice of intent to bond within the newspaper. And that opens up a clock of 45 days for the community to initiate a petition referendum to stop the bond. So there is this holding pattern happening. We have also, during all of this, the Road Commission has put out an RFP for architecture, design, and construction management of a future project. And Troy and I and another small group of folks will be interviewing 3 to 4 firms over the next about 2 weeks to decide, you know, who makes sense to move forward with. Everything up until this point has been very, very conceptual. And so the idea is to get better plans on paper, a better estimate on paper, so we can be clear about what the need is and how we would like to move forward as a county. Troy, I'll let you take it from there.
Good, good. Go on. So we did put the RFP out. We got bids back. We got 10 people that were interested in designing this facility. Ranged anywhere from about 415,000 to 1.6 million just for the design phase. Through that, we're also gonna have to bring on a construction manager, which they usually operate off a percentage of total cost. I'm assuming probably about another $1 million on top of that. But once we get the final design going, we'll bring a construction manager on board and get them involved with the architect and start doing some cost estimating and design work. But I don't know how in-depth you want me to go with the meetings that we have all had with Bumstead and John Roth.
I think there'd be a value to it. Only 2 or 3 of us have sat in one or more of those meetings.
Okay.
And I know, Troy, one of the concerns has been about the ability for repayment. So why don't you get into that a little bit?
So we had a meeting with Senator John Bumstead and House Representative John Roth to talk about funding and possible appropriations for a new facility. They kind of talked that maybe $1 to $2 million was possible through appropriations, and they're also willing to help us with our bridge funding, which is a big deal. But during that discussion, we also talked about how long-term is this new funding with the gas tax. And both of them were pretty good with saying 20+ years out of this new funding. But that's the gas tax portion. So that is in 2027 will be an extra $600,000 for the Road Commission. And then if the CIT and marijuana tax come through as well, that would be an extra 2.3 million on top of that. So 2.8 million in additional funding for the Road Commission. We also, during that meeting, we had talked about our MERS debt, our pension retirement. We have that paid down to where we no longer have to continue to fund it. That's a savings of $600,000 a year. So worst case scenario with the new gas tax that came through and the $600,000 with the pension, it's $1.2 million. Repayment on this debt loan or this debt is roughly 1.15 million a year. So we'd be easily able to make that payment and continue the services and the road construction that we've been doing in the past that has got us to this point. We also had talked about the ballot language timing. That's something that we got to be very precise on. We had set this language for the ballot in, I believe, April. You guys voted on it last year. The ballot language had to be in by August 14th or 15th last year. And that was before we knew any of this funding was coming. We've heard for years and years and years that road commissions are going to get more funding, and it never comes through. So we had to proceed forward with what we knew, and we proceeded forward on, I believe it was October 7th, the new funding got signed into a law. So we knew after the fact that we were receiving this funding by the time the ballot language was already set. But other than that, we also talked about with Art and I believe Rhonda, we talked about earmarking funds from the road commission. We're gonna set aside a fund. We'll work with Pat McGow on the resolution for that, but we'll earmark funds based roughly 3 years worth of repayment set aside just in case anything ever happens. We have that sitting there. And we're gonna continue to add funds to that as well. And the idea is by year 8, 9, 10, we'd be able to pay off this facility in full.
If I could, Gary, if I remember right, you joined us with that discussion with Bumstead and Roth. Do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, not really. I guess they reached out to Jeff from Manistee. That's how they paid for that building.
And you're talking about Jeff Dodds, who's the chair.
Jeff Dodds, the chair of the Manistee Board of Commissioners, and that's how they paid for that, which kind of all the rumors I'd heard over the years, I wasn't sure, but, and it's paid for. I don't know what they spent on it, but
It was
it
roughly
looks like it can
20
be
some years
done.
ago. Yeah, it was like 20 years ago they had bought that facility. Grand Traverse has done the same thing with their new Kingsley facility, which is roughly $14 million. Kalamazoo was another one. They spent $65 million, but they all went the same method that we are pursuing.
Yeah, I feel pretty confident. I did hear something at the MAC, ag, tourism, whatever they call it now, environmental, that some of the funding will not be available till 27. But I don't see an issue.
That would be the marijuana tax and the corporate income tax, because as of January 1st, they had collecting gas tax.
Anyway, was a concern, but I'm not too concerned about it also.
In fact, didn't they start collecting marijuana tax as of January?
I'm not 100% sure whether they have or not. It hasn't been very clear from our people, at least.
Thought I had read something until there was actually a ruling on it. They were moving forward, but I'm not definitive on that.
Right.
Randy or Rhonda, you said in the discussion regarding kind of the structure of how this might look like. Do you want to share anything that hasn't been said?
No, it was a really productive meeting. The numbers that were provided were very helpful. You know, it's never the intention of this board to want to micromanage the road commission. We just want to be certain, if we're the fiduciary on this bond, that the payments can be made. And fiscally, the path was laid out that without a doubt, in my mind, they're capable of making these payments and can fund this building. What we need to know.
In that discussion, we probably spent nearly 2 hours talking about it. Joe, I give you a lot of credit. There was great detail provided to us.
That's Bob.
That's Bob.
Bob,
I thought,
yeah, you better
Mike.
get some glasses.
well, I'm sorry.
Bob Rosen.
No, I know Bob. I get it. My fault. I apologize. So anyway, Joe had laid out a lot of detail for us. And I'll admit, I went into it pretty skeptical. So it wasn't as if I had already predetermined where I was going with this. Is there any questions that you'd like to put to Troy or any members of the road commission?
So with the new estimates for the pre-construction work that we were just talking about, up to 1.6 million in some cases, are you still comfortable with the overall $18 million number?
That is the intent, that we're gonna talk with the final design team. They're gonna look at our conceptual and figure out if that is within our ballpark that we've been saying this entire time. If it's not, we'll throw it out and start over. But our idea is to stay right underneath that $18 million. And I know $18 million is a lot, but you know, even our new dump trucks that are on the road today, they're 400 grand a piece. If you want to put a new bridge out there, 30 feet long, it's $2.5 million. You want to build a roundabout, it's over $3 million. I mean, the prices nowadays are.
Well, my wife says no roundabouts in our.
Give it time.
They're expensive.
Roy, I know that $18 million is a lot. There's, I mean, no denying that. But let's break this down. How much is it per square foot?
About $160, $170 a square foot.
And that's really what we need to be focused on. I mean, the cost is what it is, and $160 a square foot on commercial, although a lot of it's storage, I get that. I'm left with the impression that is not unreasonable.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of it that is storage, but the big expensive part is the mechanics shop. We do full maintenance, we rebuild engines, rebuild transmissions. We do it all in-house for our fleet of, I don't think we have 100 pieces of equipment now. So everything's done in-house.
And this will make you guys more efficient also, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I want to stress one more time that when this was on the ballot, they didn't know this additional funding was coming, because I was critical of that also. But we've kind of talked through that pretty thoroughly. Other questions or comments for Troy or any members of the road commission?
I would just want to give Troy the opportunity to speak to this funding that's coming. This additional funding is, can be used for this building and making these payments, but it's not going to, the concern I had was reducing the level of service to the community and the improvement of the roads. Are we pulling away from that pool to see those things happen? And I was assured that the work would continue and things would continue to be improved.
We roughly spent out of our general fund and with our road millage that we had last year, we spent $3 million on road projects. And this year we are doing the exact same. So it is the idea behind this with the new funding, with the pension being paid off, there will be no decrease in services.
And Gary had expressed concerns regarding bridges. We had discussions at length with our representatives. And what I heard them say, just echoing what you said a moment ago, was probably not a lot of money available to build a building, but when it comes to bridges, there may be money available for that.
Yep, any infrastructure type things that I believe John Roth said he was pretty adamant about getting him a list of stuff that we needed and kind of itemized how much it's going to cost, and he would go from there.
Good deal. Listen, I appreciate the presentation. I do want to make a comment about the memo. On here, it talks about up to 2 years. Katie, you and I spoke about this the other day. What you heard from Troy is it isn't up to 2 years. It's a minimum of 2 years that would be restricted to repayment of this debt, correct?
Well, yes, but I thought when our discussion happened, I believe we were talking about 3 years repayment.
Well, I understood that too, but I was told the other day that the payments are going to be, potentially 2 payments could be 3.2 million or greater. And that's about what Joe had spoken to. If you want to make a commitment to have a minimum of 3 years in reserve that's restricted, I certainly wouldn't oppose that. But I want to amend this memo to reflect that it's not up to 2 years, but it's a minimum of 2 years.
Are we setting up some sort of escrow account? Am I missing?
No, this is just a restricted line item on their fiscal reports.
Okay, on their budget, so they will. And the treasurer has no problem with that?
Kelly has no problem with that. We've spoke. So what's in front of you today is specific to the resolution of intent to bond. At the next meeting, Troy, Kelly, and I will present you with an actual agreement that's going to commit the road commission to this whole structure of committed funds for repayment, the number of years, and that whole relationship will be detailed into a resolution and agreement that'll come forward at the next meeting, so that you guys can be confident in the relationship that is being put on paper.
I don't distrust anything here. I just trying to,
Well, the
my
intent
job is
is,
to watch out for the protection.
right, the intent is my board would adopt the resolution as well as your board.
Mhm.
So it would take both boards to undo it.
Mhm.
And
We do have a
go
question.
ahead, please.
So and maybe this is more for Katie, but so this kind of bond that we're doing, do we do this often? When do we know what maybe has we done it in the last 5 years? Last 10?
The only bond
Okay.
that we actually have active at the moment is the Maples, which will expire here pretty soon. But no, Benzie County does not have a history of bonding in general. They just don't.
Okay.
Mhm.
One of the questions I had during our meeting is how this impacts the county's capacity to bond. Did we ever find out how much of our ability to move forward with any other projects this would impact?
I've not received that information back from Kelly yet. She was reaching out to her group related to that.
Okay.
Putting on my lender's head, I would tell you, because there are restricted funds to meet a minimum of 2 years payment, it probably has lesser an impact.
Mm-hmm. And we're very healthy. We have a great rating. The Maples is almost done and our investments look good. So our ability to bond is pretty good. Benzie County has a history of being ultra conservative and staying away from borrowing money.
In the time that I've been here, nearly 30 years, I remember we bonded for the jail and we bonded for this building, but we generally don't
No,
get into much debt.
we really don't.
That's one of the reasons why our bond rating's so well,
Mm-hmm.
our credit rating. So again, when I look at the memo, the only thing I'd like to consider amending here is instead of in the second paragraph saying holding up to 2 payments in reserve, it would say hold up to 2,
Minimum.
2 years. Thank you.
It's in the memo, right?
If there's no objections to that and there's no further questions, I'd look for action on
I do
this,
want to talk a little bit about liability,
please.
the county's liability. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that in the event that, this is my understanding anyway, that the road commission is unable to pay this bond, it then falls on the county to do so. And I do understand that the road commission, the way the thing's being worked out, you guys are really mitigating any type of risk. I just want to make sure people understand, not just us, but people that may be listening, that there could be a liability in the future for the county.
The county's actually doing the obligation and then giving the money to the road commission. The only piece that's missing for me here, and I've not really pushed this, is that there's no consequences if they fail to meet that payment. And I don't know how we manage that. You know, there's only so much we can do. Because for me, this is about not just protecting the taxpayer, but to protect future boards. I know that we hope to pay it off in 8 or 9 years, but I'd have to have a board 15 years from now say, what the heck did they obligate me to?
And it has a referendum addition to this if the public decides they're not in favor of it. It can be brought to the ballot by a petition signing thing, so.
There's a
Nothing else.
specific
I'm gonna
window
make
to
this
that,
motion.
right?
45 days.
45 days
Yeah.
from if we pass this today, folks have 45 days to take action.
It's 45 days of the publishing. And so being that the Record Patriot would come out next Thursday, it would be 45 days from the publishing.
The publishing. Very good. Thank you.
And approving this today still gives you the opportunity to ask more questions the next time this is brought in front of us.
Mhm.
This isn't the last time we'll see it.
Correct.
So with that, nobody's gonna object. That the Board of Commissioners adopts a notice of intent resolution, capital improvement bonds 2026 through 004. With the intent of issuing bonds for the construction of a road commission facility.
Roll off some support.
Additional comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloff.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Trigg,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for being here today, folks.
Appreciate it.
All work, Troy.
Absolutely.
So it's 10:27. I'd recommend we take maybe a 5-6 minute break.
Take a minute.
You're unmuted.
All right, it's 10:37. Let's call it back into session. The first subject we have is about approving the renewal of, why don't you introduce the subject?
Yes, so in front of you today is the request to renew opioid settlement funds to pay for the emergency medical dispatching service that we've implemented into Central Dispatch. When the original project was approved, the annual funding for opioid, it was indicated at that time that that would come back before the Board of Commissioners, because this is, these are special use funds. And so what is in front of you today is the request to utilize those funds to renew with Priority Dispatch to continue the emergency medical dispatching service that we're providing to the county. And Corey sends his regrets. He's out ill.
Shouldn't give them the money.
Is that a motion?
I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners authorizes the use of the opioid settlement funds to cover the costs of continued emergency medical dispatching operations for fiscal year of 2026, and then not to exceed amount of $3,060 payable to Priority Dispatch.
Matthew seconds.
Thank you. Additional comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Nye. Yes. Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Katie, introduce the next subject, please.
The next item in your packet is a request to apply for a grant for the animal shelter through the 270 Foundation. The 270 has given us funding in multiple fiscal years in the past. You'll recall that they gave us the funding to put in the cat condos that are up there. They also gave us a significant amount of funding to redo the outdoor kennel yards. And in this year, we're applying for funding to do the inside kennels for the dogs, the fronts. So if anyone has been in the back of our shelter, you'll see that we have cinder block like slots, and on the front of those slots are chain link fences for the dogs. The chain link gates are rusting. They're in poor condition. The MDARD, when they came and did their inspection, they really urged that we get those replaced sooner than later. And so we're applying to the 270 Foundation for $10,000 to replace those fronts of those kennels within the back of the animal shelter.
I was told they're not just unsightly, the animals can actually injure themselves.
They can injure themselves, and the whole, when dogs are cooped up, they lick a lot, and they lick the rust, and that's not good for the animals either.
Now I makes a motion that the Board of Commissioner authorizes application to the 270 Inc. Foundation in the amount of $10,000 to replace kennel doors, and authorizes the county administrator to sign, and further authorizes the related budget amendment upon anticipated award of such grant.
Craig second.
She's got it.
Comments?
Just one. Are we still pursuing the possibility of working with Grand Traverse County and Leelanau County? I know we've got an issue here, but I don't like putting funds into something we're gonna probably get rid of, I guess. Now I'm looking at any way to use this stuff.
Yes, the intent would be to reuse anything that could be reused, no matter where we go, whether it's by ourselves or in a regional fashion. We believe that this $10,000, if awarded, would cover the full cost, so there wouldn't be dollars coming out of Benzie County's pockets to do these kennel fronts. It is still on the line regarding working with potentially Grand Traverse and Leelanau County. I just received the Eagle report from Inland this week, and we were kind of waiting on that for that property to pursue potentially that property in Inland Township, because that was an ideal location. We've looked at other properties around that kind of area of the county that is owned by local governments or ourselves. So far, we're coming up short. There's really not a lot of public land that's kind of near the line that we could take on, except for this property that Inland owns. They own 30 there. But there's a 10 and a 20 that are next to each other. So Eagle has finally given back the reports. They did some soil samples and such, because as you know, it was an orchard for many, many years. And so the ground could be contaminated. And so now that we have that report back, and I'll get that over to Grand Traverse, we'll start those conversations, going forward again. I also spoke about this idea with Senator Bumstead just yesterday about this idea of regionalizing some sort of animal shelter. And he piqued his interest quite a bit. And he said to keep him, up to date on how that's going, because that would be something that he believes he could find support for as well. And so it's not off the radar, but it just slowed down because we were waiting on some information before we moved forward any further.
Like the idea if we can reuse this stuff.
Yeah.
Makes more sense to me, because we just put a lot of money into that outside thing and
Mhm.
gonna close it up in 2 years.
Yeah. Well,
Anyway. just
yep,
my
we can reuse, I mean, fencing, we can reuse, no problem. That the turf can be reused also. And, you know, we've been really successful in getting donations and grants. So thankfully, we haven't had to take a ton out of the millage to do some of these things because we've found some pretty generous donors, like the cat condos. That was $32,000 that we didn't pay for, but we have these beautiful ventilated cat condo systems. And so we're trying our best to get the money elsewhere outside of the millage for these things, but the full intent would be to reuse what we can.
Thank you.
Appreciate the question, Gary. Thank you. Other comments or questions? Katie, before I call for the vote though, Gary, it's talked about a 2-year timeline. If there even was an agreement where there was going to be a regional animal control, are we looking probably closer to 5 years than we are 2?
Yeah, I think it would take that long to, you know, get together plans, go through the process, find the money, find the location. I mean, I would say more like a 5-year timeline would be realistic if we actually decided to move forward. I would anticipate, now that we have some information back from the properties we were looking at, you know, we'll start meeting here again. I would guess maybe this year it would come back to the respectful boards to possibly enter into an agreement. But I mean, I think it's going to take almost this entire year to really do our due diligence around this idea and find the land, find the supporters, see what makes sense. You know, so we have time definitely on our side to work through this.
Just working through the organizational documents.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about multiple communities.
Well, and that's the thing. You have to really look at all the approaches of how you do this and, you know, who's the leading entity versus not, and, you know, those sorts of things. And so we want to, if we're going to do it, if this makes sense to do it, we want to make sure we're doing it right.
Sure. Even what are the consequences of the managing entity
Exactly.
failing, all those things.
Exactly.
I just wanted, because we're addressing the public too, I didn't want to leave anybody with the impression that we really are that far down the road.
We're not that far.
I would like to, are we talking animal control or an animal shelter?
Katie?
So those are both on the table too at this point, right? So far, you know, we're talking about the shelter is a big thing because we all do animal control a little differently in the 3 counties. As you know, Grand Traverse, their animal control actually falls under their health department. Here it falls under administration. And then you know, Leelanau's a little different from there. It's the sheriff's office. So we have these various ways of how we manage animal control among the three counties. And so we have to work through all of that. Right now, the primary need is the shelter. Grand Traverse doesn't have a shelter. Leelanau doesn't have a shelter. We have a shelter, but we know that it needs major upgrades to, you know, keep up with the different changes and those sorts of things. So the primary focus is the shelter. The enforcement, the officer side of it will be part of the conversation, but we really are focusing on the shelter itself.
And Grand Traverse has a shelter, but it's managed by the private sector.
So no, that is Cherryland Humane Society's shelter, and Grand Traverse pays rent to Cherryland.
I guess that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I do.
Please.
How old is the fencing? Do you know? We
What
don't.
fencing?
The fencing that we're talking about replacing.
I don't know
Okay.
the age. I just know it's quite old.
Okay.
It might even be original, honestly. I don't really know for sure.
Okay.
Anything else? Call please.
Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Frigg,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
motion carried.
Katie, do you want to introduce the next subject or do you want Michael?
Michael can come up and answer any questions that may be had by the Board of Commissioners. What you have in front of you is an amended 2025 apportionment report. As you know, there was a hiccup in the tax bills, and we had to fix the Transit Authority's levy. And so Michael jumped right on that with Kelly. They were able to fix it. And so to shore up our documentation for the for the reasons of taxing, we do have to adopt an amended apportionment, which truly reflects the correct Transit Authority levy.
Why is Lake Township highlighted?
And Michael, please come up here. Sorry, people do watch us online and they can't hear you from the.
I'll speak to that real quickly. I was the one to put this together. I just wanted to highlight all the changes that have occurred since your original apportionment approval. So this highlighted item on the front page, that reflects the fire millage that was passed for Lake Township that you guys have already addressed. the change that we're kind of discussing today would be found on page 2, where the line item for the total operating rate on the transit for Benzie County has been reduced to 0.4625.
And that's really what's been amended on this report.
Yes, sir.
Nothing with Lake Township.
Correct.
I thought Lake Township, that fire millage passed for the first L 4020 that
Mm-mm.
came out. No,
Nope. So you adopted the first apportionment, all of that before the November ballot, and then that was on the November ballot. So we did do an amended at that time, but it's still different from your original.
just remember doing the amended
Yeah.
thing, so,
We did.
okay.
And a question before we put for a motion. At the BTA, they originally approved a L 4029
Mhm.
that did not have column 11 filled out.
Correct.
When they realized the mistake, after the officers and board had acted on it, they filled in additional information.
Yep.
Has that new information been approved by their board?
As I know, no.
I thought they had it on the special meeting that they had the updated
No,
L
when they
4029.
updated it,
That was my understanding.
was it filled out at that time?
I don't know that
Recall.
much.
It was.
It was filled out?
That special meeting was really about their 2027 budget, I think.
Right, right.
But the only reason why I bring this up is that we're potentially going to approve something that their board hasn't really approved yet. Because that column was filled out after the signatures were obtained.
Mm-hmm.
I did receive an updated 4029. Whether that went through their board, I'm not sure. That's the impression I got, but I couldn't speak to it with certainty.
Could
We can
we
see who
just
signed
double check that? I'm not suggesting doing it before we act on it, but
Absolutely.
let's make sure that the procedures have been followed.
Well, if they didn't take it to their board, they shouldn't have sent it to us signed.
Well,
So,
but they sent it to us signed with, but only after the columns were in fact, they sent us it. Column 11 wasn't filled out. They were called on that. They hand wrote that in, but never brought it back to the board. At least as of
well, that was the original. So you're talking about the new one, though. You want to make sure that that went before the board. Okay.
after they filled out column 11.
Tammy, you would have received it from them too. Did you receive it from them? The
I would
newest?
have to go, I receive them from everybody, so. I have
Right.
to-
I don't typically get those. They go to the clerk and the equalization director. So I don't know.
But isn't that
If it was
protocol
filled
that
out.
their board would approve it and then send it to us?
That is how they're supposed to do it, correct? So they did send it to us. Hold on. Tammy, you forwarded on to Michael and I when they sent it to you. It came from Wendy Wiedemeyer.
She's a.
Wiedemeyer. So they sent it to Tammy on December 11th. Looking at that document that she forwarded on to Michael and I. It is filled in correctly and signed by Mr. Halliday and Ms. Fahili as
But
of
those
12/10.
signatures were secured before column 11. It was secured and approved before column 11 was filled out.
The one in December 10th or the original? I think you're referring to the original when it wasn't filled out and they filled it out after they signed. Are you saying they did that
Let me
again?
say it differently. The board members, the officers have told me that they did not sign an amended form.
They did according to this, December 10th, they
No.
signed it.
All right, I'm just making sure we're following protocol, that's all.
So on December 10th, Brian Halliday and Jeanette Fahili signed an updated L 4029 where 11 is filled in, 0 for the new millage that's not active, and 4625 for the new.
Okay.
On December 10th, they signed.
Thank you. Sorry for belaboring it, folks, but we've had some hiccups there. I'd seek a motion.
Glad you cleared that up. I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners approve the amended 2025 apportionment report to include corrections to the Transit Authority levy.
9 seconds.
Thank you. Additional comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Sauer,
Yes.
Grigg, Yes. Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Katie?
The next item within your packet is regarding mass emergency notification systems. Rebecca Hubers is here to go into detail about the system and what it does for Benzie County as well as our neighbors within the county. I gave you a nutshell, but Rebecca gave some great information as to what the purpose of this software or service is for Benzie County.
So Rebecca Hubers, Office of Emergency Management, Benson County. There are there's a few new people since I started in this project that was before me. So I wanted to make sure that you had an understanding. So I put a memo and then a lot of pages, because I had 4 vendor quotes, so they all have their stuff that goes with it for you to see in full transparency. So my memo, I tried to stick to as many less pages as I could, but there's a background on it. Does everybody kind of understand in my reading or have any questions regarding the background of why we use mass notification regardless of the vendor?
I think it's understood.
Okay, yeah, that's the capability of me in Benzie County and not somebody else being able to push that alert to your phone, whether you like it or not, or the beep, beep, beep across your TV that says if this would have, important information to follow the tone. That's written by someone who's pushing the button, which is my office, for Benzie County type stuff.
Rebecca, I want you to continue on, but do you have to sign up for that, or is that?
Yeah, that stuff is signed up through FEMA, the iPause version, the emergency alerts type system, that even if we had billboards that would reflect that, those types of messages can be put out, on freeway billboards that say, hey, caution this, caution that. We sign up for that through, we can't sign up directly to iPause by ourselves. We have to go through that notification vendor.
I'm talking about the individual. Like, do I have to sign, do I have to initiate that?
No, that emergency notification stuff, the very important emergency notification stuff, you get whether you like it or not.
Okay,
That's the president, the governor, or Becky putting stuff out onto your phone and making it do a red alert.
very good. Thank you.
Yes.
Know what's best for you, Art.
They're I don't want to say they're non-emergency, but those less important things that we can give you notifications for. I send you one for EOC callouts, that type of group that you would get. The fire chiefs get them if the tower is acting funny and they have to do something with their MDTs or whatever, or radios. Those less emergency things, we kind of either fill you in or have those. One good example Code Red is we have a building notification. If it was up and working, you would have gotten an alarm alert from your phone that said the building is closed due to bad weather. Please don't bother coming in. Instead, we had to do a phone tree because of this cyber event. Other messages that the community could receive, yes, they would have to opt in, kind of like signing up for Code Red.
Yes.
Those lesser things, but like the Village of Beulah, we get phone calls all the time because we fit in the Village of Beulah. They push it to their phone numbers that already exist. We don't get to opt in or opt. That lets us know to run the water or that they're doing hydrant testing and those types.
Sure.
So any more questions on just the background or what emergency notification or mass notification is? There's kind of the emergent and the non-emergent version of that.
Rebecca?
Yes.
Could I pause you just for a moment? We've had this information in front of us, and you're certainly more qualified than any of us to determine who's a proper vendor. Would the group like to have a full presentation, or are you ready to act on this now?
Yeah, I'm not gonna go through every page. Those, I'm gonna address them just so if you have questions. There's that share component, and I broke down the share component that we use. We had in 2017 offered it up to other agencies to kind of cost offset. I think that $6,000 original cost offset was a lot to chew maybe in 2017. It's been budgeted ever since, but it does offset a little bit. And so I did reach out because we have agreements I don't think only a few of you were here when we didn't dissolve the agreement with Paul Oliver. They didn't need it anymore, to speak. Did reach out to the communities. I got maybe 1.5 answers back, whether they were still interested or not. After this decision today, I will reach out with them again saying, this is the platform that the board has chosen to use. Are you still interested? Because we are in that agreement status that we provide them service. Anyway, that was that on that part. The new offers, again, the packet's huge because I gave you a who. They provided us with this is our information, and then they gave you a what, which was the agreement or the quote or proposal. Some of them hit our max budget, which was $6,000 annual. That was what we were paying for Code Red on a 3-year renewal. Some of them mimicked it. TextMyGov did, Genesis did. I met with Genesis 2 years ago. They're rather kind of new and they had a lesser quote. So I was hoping that they would stay within that realm, but they've gotten kind of big and expanded what they offer. And so everybody has a few add-ons, which could be beneficial. But I looked through what was beneficial and most of them would apply to the communities. I can see where Crystal Mountain would get benefit out of a QR code tag. City of Frankfort might get one for some of their bigger events that they have that allows information. But on the basic level, we put in a recommendation that Rave Mobile Safety kind of has that bare minimum. Doesn't have any extra perks. I think it will meet the needs of what we're doing. And so that's a recommendation of the administration, I guess, me too.
I guess I do have a question. So the text alert, I think I remember, you know, being in another county and doing that. How do they, and I think you mentioned that you have to sign up for it. So if I'm Benzie County resident, how do I know to sign up for it? 1, and then 2, how do, I don't know, I guess, how do I know? I guess, no, how do I know?
We campaign the crap out of it. Just
Okay.
like we do not Smart 911. We have
Okay.
posters all over the building for the most part. It's on my webpage. We send out social information. It's at the health department. I saw our poster at the health department. So all we do is put it in, you know, like a QR code in front of people and tell them what it is. And hopefully they make an effort.
They sign up for it.
If they want to be informed, they will find a way to be informed.
So then the QR code you're talking about, so if we signed up for that, is that a way then to sign up? Like if you're in the area?
Yeah, so the code, the Motorola Rave, the bare minimum level doesn't really have that option.
Okay.
The next company, that HQE system, offers that option, which I thought that's really neat. In fact, some places have bought their option just for that feature, which nobody else has. Saying like, I'm at Crystal Mountain from this date to this date. Please send me all the alerts that might happen in Crystal Mountain, from Crystal Mountain just during these dates. And then when I go home, I don't keep getting those. So I don't have, you know, those types of small events or locations. It'd be cool if we had super great big parks or something like that, where we could say, this is the notification area for our campgrounds or whatever, but we don't manage those. And so old Becky would be like, these are the things we offer the community. We should, you know, make them great and make them available to all of our community members, but been burned a couple times on some communities. So I'm like, hey, we'll just, if you want more, go buy your own at this point, I guess. So it's one way or the other. I think we are meeting our needs by Motorola Rave. And we're saving a little bit of money from what we were paying for Code Red. An upgrade would be the HQE, which has a few more features. We would, as a county, wouldn't use them as much, but maybe our communities would, if they continue to sign up with after the fact. Again, I haven't heard from the Village of Beulah at all. I haven't heard from the health department at all. The City of Frankfort, kinda. said that they would get back with me and they haven't. And Crystal Mountain's the only one that said, yes, we're still, are interested in continuing. Please keep us in the loop. So when I sent the outreach. So I don't know if they didn't go to the right places or if they just didn't see it or. This was kind of a fast turnover, but I don't think it was horribly. Too short of a notice. We had, we knew what was going on. All those people that are currently vendors were given notice to let them know what was going on. And I was kind of kept them in the loop. Some replied, most didn't. And then we pretty much made that decision to make the change because we just weren't. Code Red still hasn't made full resources available from their old system. Even to the state of Michigan was using Code Red, and my last report was they still aren't able to make them whole as far as providing the service that they're supposed to. So we severed that contract, and now where we're at.
Well, memory serves me right. Didn't the state of Michigan fund Code Red for the entire state to begin with?
No,
No, that was.
that was Smart 911.
Oh, okay.
For a while, and then they said, okay, now that you have it, you have to.
Oh, yeah.
The state of Michigan did offer that iPause emergency operation through Code Red for an option. We didn't get a price decrease with that, but we were already a vendor, we were already a customer of Code Red. So it would be the less than bare minimum for emergency response. We do use both the emergency notification and that non-emergency notification effort that that all of these vendors provide on a regular basis outside of those TV alerts and stuff that you hopefully won't get from us ever. That would.
Additional comments or questions?
Just to clarify, so something that would be texted to me might be something like, ice storm is coming, or I don't know, or power lines, or I don't know, what would be the information that would be coming to me via text?
If you were getting an emergency alert through the iPause system, again, in your lifetime, have you ever watched the TV and had the warning and then actually had a message behind it? It's very rare. It would be your town is your neighborhood is about to flood, you need to evacuate, or you're gonna, or we think that there's a plume of bad stuff headed your direction.
Okay.
Please do that. You don't get a choice on those messages. Those messages are sent to you. If you were to sign up to say, within the city of Frankfurt, they might send you messages that say, we're flushing hydrants today. Please note you might have some brown water, or we're under a freeze advisory. Please run a pencil, stream of water, Beulah, or garbage pickup is closed. The city maintained garbage pickup is not functioning today. Put your garbage out tomorrow. Those types of things would come from those communities.
Thank you.
We don't do, Benzie doesn't do that. Benzie would do more of the whole, we're all gonna die.
Okay.
And the reason that I limit those is because there's a thing called notification or warning fatigue. If I keep sending you things that aren't important, you're gonna start blowing off my messages. And then the one thing that's really important was, you need to get out of your house. It's good, there's a fire coming your way. You're gonna be like, Becky's gonna tell me the garbage is moved, or the Husky news is on the phone and that.
Okay, thank you. That helps. That clarifies. Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
On the rave thing, they look at it right. We only have to sign up for 2 years max.
No, it's
You
a
could-
5-year.
You have a 5-year contract, but it's broken down to yearly, it's all the same price.
Yeah.
But are we tied into 5 years? That's what I'm.
They offered 5 years, but most of them offer 3 at that price. I'd want 5 years. Out of them because
As long as it doesn't do a Code Red on you between now and.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. So there are different, again, Motorola, big company, big name, everybody's heard of it.
mhm.
It does have some overseas components, that put it in the same plane as Code Red. HQE is, I didn't send you their packet because it was 28 more pages, but it had a restriction on it, and Tammy caught that, and that shouldn't be we can't publicly display it. So we didn't put it in the packet without their permission. I didn't ask for their permission, so they're disabled vet owned, they're US owned, they have a lot of military bases. They're kind of small, but they're definitely picking up. And I think that they reached out because of Code Red failure. They're like, more people, more people. So I supported their system as well. It has a few new nicer features, but again, they're new, and so I'm worried how fast they're gonna grow and be able to keep up. Rave has been around for a long time.
Like the vet owned thing, but I guess we kind of have that now, right? With the IT.
Yeah, HQE reminds me a lot of Carhu.
Yeah.
They have that same, in fact, they're small enough still that the co-owner gave me my demo. So that, you know, they're compassionate, they're very into that strict intelligence. They have DoD level securities and things like that. They have a lot of pluses that belong to their system. And again, I thought, hey, there's gonna be some things that our communities might like out of their package that Rave doesn't offer. Rave is kind of that flatline minimum job done. I can't really offer a whole lot of extra.
I don't have a problem with that either. It's just, I don't want to be tied into something.
At those price points, though, knowing that these companies like to bump things around a little bit, I know that Code Red tried doing that with me, and I actually said, no, you can't. Just increase it, because I read the contract. It's kind of nice to have that 5-year or something at that.
And we
price
get
point.
out of it.
Yes.
We can get out of any contract that we do, really.
Yeah, yeah, there's always those. It's still an annual type update. It's just good for 5 years before we look at it again and
Price
change
takes
the
a hike.
price.
Right.
That's
Okay.
when they get asked to change the price.
I'm relying on you, so.
So yes, the admin gave you a memo with a recommendation. It's up to you, obviously, if you spent that whole time reading all of those papers that they gave you. My options, I was, like I said, torn between Rave and HQE. Rave being the most economical and provides us the service we need.
Anybody like to make that motion?
You went too far, so you're not gonna
I'm
find
not
it.
gonna find it there.
I can give you the paper.
I wish you put the motions at the end after.
I make the motion that the Board of Commissioners authorizes a 5-year subscription with Motorola Rave for emergency notification services and integration with Smart 911. The annual amount of $4,500 with funds available in the General Fund Emergency Management Department, Central Dispatch Fund, and Ambulance Fund with partial reimbursement from entities noted in January 7th, 2026. Memo from Emergency Management Office and authorizes the chair to sign.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Additional comments? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
motion carried.
So after this, I will reach out to the communities. I will present them with the paperwork from Rave that says, you know, what it does. And if they want a demo and if they still want to partner with us. Again, they usually get billed in January for their little bit of fees, and I told them that we're holding off on that until we figure it out. Their contracts never said Code Red, their contract just said mass notification. So the fact that we could change it, I think it was written that way, so if we had to change a vendor, it wasn't change anything, but still gonna give them the opportunity to go, yeah, we reassessed and we forgot all about this and we don't use it anymore, and go from there.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. We're gonna move on to appointments to the Park and Rec Commission. Katie, anything you'd like to say before we move into that regarding the memo?
Yeah, in your packet, if you have the digital packet, you'll see a corrected memo and motion that was provided. Inadvertently, it said Sean Dupere, it's actually Sean Johnson that they're recommending for reappointment to the Parks and Recreation Commission. The ad hoc did meet back in November related to this committee specifically, and the recommendations in there are from the ad hoc interview committee.
Very good. I'd entertain a motion.
Now moves that the Board of Commissioners reappoints Sean Johnson and Barb Skirdahl and appoints Rose Roloffs to the Park and Recreation Commission, terms expiring December 31st, 1st, 2028.
Mark, you will support. Thank you. Additional comments or questions?
Just one. Sean Duperrin, I see, did not submit a letter. Has anybody reached out to him?
I have.
Being on the DNR, that's kind of what,
His response to me was for some family member matters,
okay,
but more importantly, because of his new role with the DNR, and at times there could be a conflict, he's stepping back.
okay,
Mhm.
thank you. But
Yeah.
just curious.
His historic knowledge of so many issues is
Yes.
just unmatched and great loss to that committee, but much appreciation for his service.
Okay,
There's no other comments? We need to do that by roll call, please.
Jeanette,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
yes.
Craig,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, the next subject we have is committee appointments. You got those in advance. These appointments were done as a result of your input. I have not got the latest sheet. Yeah, I do. In front of me. We tried to do as equal a distribution as we could, but at the same time, meet the request of each of the commissioners. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at that. And if there's no changes to it, I'd look to adopt that.
Need a motion to adopt it to
I believe so.
A motion to accept.
accept, make that motion.
Can I get support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Bob. Another opportunity for comments or questions? We need to do that by roll call?
Yeah.
Please?
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews.
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Jeanette,
Yes.
motion carried.
If any of you have questions regarding this or Len in particular with you, feel free to contact myself or Katie. The one thing I do want to make sure that you're aware of is for the MAC committees, you need to submit an application, or at least historically we've had to. And if admin would help him, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I've done them in the past on your behalf, and they have to be done every year. So all of you will have an application submitted on your behalf to MAC.
Very good. All right. Personnel Committee. This was a committee that we formed last year, and it really needs to be reestablished every year because it's put together as an ad hoc committee. Who served on that Personnel Committee? Rhonda, I know you did. I think there was 3 people.
David did.
David Davis, and was it you or you?
And me.
It was Tim then, I think, was on that one.
Probably.
Yeah,
So what I would suggest,
we only met once.
what I'd
Then
suggest for consideration is that Tim and Rhonda consider to serve. And is there somebody else that would like to fill the 3rd slot?
This is basically an interview committee.
The committee was formed to address initially our payment in lieu of insurance policy.
Oh,
So not all the policies are going to come to this committee. It's going to be a standing committee or an ad hoc committee for the year. In case issues come up with policies in our regular meetings that need to be sent to committee for further consideration with a recommendation brought back. That's my understanding.
Yeah, it'll be an as needed committee specifically for this group, and it's mostly going to be like policy type review. Right now we have an active RFP for our benefits agent. I envision those RFPs coming before this committee with some additional staff also attending. So that would be an item that this committee would oversee. And then any sort of grievance or disciplinary, as I recall, that'll be a step also in the process, that step 3 grievance hearings would also be this committee. So very as needed, and it would really just, when something comes up, then this committee would be called for a meeting.
If I remember
else?
correctly, does this negate the need for you to hold meetings with yourself as far as step grievances?
Right.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I really enjoyed talking to myself though, so I'm a little disappointed. Yeah, it's really nice.
Those are good
I
conversations.
really like to
Right.
negotiate on each side of my brain.
We've gotten comments from elected officials about that. but
About me talking to myself? Yeah, I know.
Is there,
I think I'd fit in pretty good. Anyway, I'll volunteer unless somebody else really wants to
is
do
there
it.
somebody else? Gary, I'm not trying to discourage you from it, but you're pretty loaded up with committees.
Okay.
Is anybody else interested in serving on that committee?
I'm an HR guy. I'd love to do that. No problem.
Gary, you okay with us?
That's fine.
Okay.
Hey, yes, I'm
So what we'd be proposing is Rhonda, Tim and Len. And I'd look for a motion if there's no other conversation on it.
Now you have the same numbers. Can't make that comment anymore.
Trig moves the Board of Commissioners appoint commissioners, Matthew, Markey, and Nye to a personnel committee to assist administration with review of personnel policies and related items.
I'll second.
Thank you. Additional comments? Roll call, please.
Matthews,
yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
motion carried.
We had added at the beginning of the meeting, a interview committee to be discussed for the EDC. We have one applicant. I might say that they're highly qualified, but we still need to put them through the process. I serving on the EDC board. I'm going to continue to appoint myself to that interview. Christie, you had been appointed before, but Len's now taking the role as the committee member. So Len, I would ask that you participate in that.
Absolutely.
And we need a third. Who's the third one before?
Rhonda.
Who's
Who's
Rhonda?
Rhonda?
Would you like to continue to serve in that?
Sure.
Okay, so,
Thank you.
so what I'd need is a motion appointing those,
Rhonda, you and Len?
yes.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll support that motion.
You're okay with that, Amy?
Yep, got it.
All right, and we probably need to do roll call on that too.
Yep. Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Craig,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes,
Markey,
Yes.
Matthews,
Yes.
motion carried.
very good. We're moving into commissioner reports now, and let's start with Bob.
I have minimal at best, other than Veterans Affairs met yesterday. We were a couple guys short, due to appointments. Look forward to an upcoming great year.
Oh, good.
Any comments or questions for Bob? All right, and Rhonda, let's move to you.
Okay, everybody settle in. Since we last met, I've had 2 AP reviews, agenda review where we did committee assignments. Central Wellness has met twice since we last met. One of the things reported at that meeting was Central Wellness is transitioning to make all their policies searchable. The staff appreciates being able to put a word in the computer and find applicable policies. This used to be photos uploaded, and so it was endless scrolling, trying to find the information that you wanted. The NMRE update, as of lately, always concerns Northern Lakes and what's going on there. It was reported that there's a consideration to go to full risk. What that means is that counties would have to cover overages of their CMH. Technically, it's a stick, it's a carrot and stick to try and make these community mental health providers operate within their budgets. Northern Lakes has made some changes. They have let 27 people go, and some have been demoted to change the trajectory, their fiscal trajectory. So there is movement in that area. The PIHP bid out has been discussed at length at both meetings. Chip testified on behalf of the CMHSPs. That's on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it.
Great viewing.
It is.
Great reading, yeah.
There are a
Hey,
couple
you
mic,
get to watch it.
couple mic drop moments. At the end of the day, the last email I got was "we win." That was the heading on it. It was found that the bid out violates the mental health code. We'll see where that goes after that. If anybody appeals it, what this looks like going forward, stay tuned. Another extensive conversation was about max bid on the PIHP bid out. I mean, essentially, we were all concerned with their lack of transparency, their lack of conversations with our CMH provider. As of the last meeting last Tuesday, Chip had not spoken with Steve Curry. So it was kind of, let's wait and see how the case goes to know what needs to happen there. But
essentially, had this gone forward, or if it does go forward, because I'm not sure we have a crystal ball or know the end of this yet. MAC puts themselves in competition with our provider. With that in mind, the commissioners, the 4 commissioners that serve on our Benzie Manistee Mental Health Central Wellness Board sat down and provided a list of questions that we had concerning MAC with Chip Johnston's input. Those were sent to Katie, and we'll see if we need to push those forward to MAC going forward with this ruling. I attended Benzonia Township's meeting. They awarded their snow removal bid to AJ's. They extended their listing for the township building for 3 months. In the interim, they have voted to allow a local church to use that facility on Sundays. It's the Crystal Lake Church that burnt down until they resolve getting a new church up, or I don't remember there being a time limit on their use. Resident came forward, had an issue with Harris Road. He wants a seasonal sign removed. So it's used year round. He said the road is used year round and the road commission not plowing it violates an agreement that was made in the 90s. Benzonia held a special meeting last week. The meeting initially was not properly noticed, and so it needed to be rescheduled to the following day. The special meeting was called to answer, apparently the board has been named in a forerunner suit. Additional motions has been filed naming the board as defendants. They needed to answer that motion by January 12th, and there's going to be a hearing on January 20th. The board agreed to answer this motion in opposition to forerunner's request while giving historical information as to why the decision was made. So this is a dispute involving their marijuana dispensary. The board also at that meeting approved an RFP for new counsel to replace Micah Myers. I attended the road commission meeting, which we reviewed thoroughly today and took action on. The village of Benzonia, they had a error in their water billing to BWAC, which bought the Crystal Lake Elementary School. They are foregoing their ready to serve fees to correct the line size fee error. They discussed their attorney use policy. They approved a payment from their motor vehicle to local streets and have paid their plow truck off in full. They had a discussion regarding possible Eagle grants, which are a 50% match, which might be offered in May and June to replace lead lines in the village. And the treasurer wisely requested MOUs with entities that are not part of the village submitting grants on behalf of the village, which might be happening with the ice rink. Attended the organizational meeting with everybody else. Water smart land use. John discussed that earlier this morning. Discussion about the zone tool. We were going to do a trial run to see the uploaded data, but had a little bump in the road on that. The village of Beulah accounted for the $2 million grant they have received to date. They have spent over $1 million and the remainder will be spent by the deadline for their sewer project. The village of Beulah is advertising for a new zoning administrator and a recording secretary for their planning commission. Gosling and Zubek was hired by the Support the Courts effort to come up with a plan. The board approved the village offering in-kind services to support the Courts effort, which can be noted in grant applications. Beulah approved part-time employee benefits, which were 18 hours annually, paid time off. And they approved a sidewalk snow blower purchase. And then my final meeting was the land bank. Our treasurer, Kelly Long, created a sheet, which was the Benzie County Land Bank history, land history, and it's all the properties that the land bank has been involved in Benzie County and who they ended up going to. And it's a great document, very important. I really appreciate that she did that. They needed to pick a new chair and vice chair. Jason Bernard is chair, Vince Edwards is vice chair.
They discussed letters to the townships explaining what the land bank does and can do for the townships. And then they did move to bi-monthly meetings, which needs to be noted on our meeting schedule. So starting in March, they'll meet every other month, except for a special meeting they've already called for February 4th at 9 a.m. to finalize these township letters that are going to go out. And then they finalized an excellent mission statement, which I brought, and I'm going to read to you, which says, we strategically and collaboratively acquire properties and use land bank tools to create economic opportunities and transform those properties into community assets. That was a big brainstorming session, and I thought that was very well done. All I have.
That's all you have?
That's all I have. That's it.
Wait for more.
Yeah, right. Questions or comments? Anything that you want to add regarding that issue with community mental health?
Which one?
Well, she discussed two things, one regarding MAC and one regarding the court decision.
Yeah, I'll wanna just a little bit on the court decision, because I'm not an attorney, nor do I claim to be one, or understand some of the things that they do.
But you play one on TV?
Yeah, yes. Part of the ruling was that the RFP stays in the court's jurisdiction. This is how it was explained to me. That if the state of Michigan decides to reissue the RFP, the court has to approve it before they can. And by approving it, they would give it to probably Chip Johnson and our attorney, what was the name? Tim Cook?
Chris
Cook.
Chris Cook.
To make sure that it doesn't violate any of the state's mental health code. So a timing thing is going to be come into play because I can't see this happening in very quickly for the state to come back, rewrite it, give it to the courts give it to Central Wellness for them to review, give it back to the court saying, yes, you can publish it now. And then we're going to have a new administration we will have a new administration at the governor's level come November. So it's not officially gone, but in essence, it kind of is. Which is fantastic. Now, with regarding to MAC, very concerning that I know they're saying this wasn't done in a vacuum and that they were looking out for the best interests of the counties, but there has been ample time since that RFP was published for them to actually get feedback from the counties on whether the counties wanted them to do that or not. The lack of communication with community mental health organizations to get their input on what could or could not be, should be done is very concerning as well. As commissioners, Michigan Association of Counties is kind of our organization. We kind of are the reason why they're there. We, as the Central Wellness Network Board, we did ask Chip if he would actually go speak at the Northern Michigan Counties Association and at the Upper Peninsula one as well, which he agreed to do. But because of the ruling, I don't think it's necessary. But as commissioners, we still may want to question the MAC board and why they took this route, how it went about.
If you want additional information, in your most recent magazine from MAC, they have two different articles on it, one on page 3 and one on page 25. So I would draw your attention to that if you want more information. Anything else to be said on that piece of it? Rhonda, regarding the grants in Beulah, I read in the paper the other day that Bergman was able to secure a grant, I think like $1 million or something. Was that included in the $2 million number you just gave us?
I don't believe so,
Okay.
but I'm not certain. I wouldn't want to definitive speak to that. I didn't see that article.
Well, it may not have been, it probably was something I get over email, but in any case, I understand just in the last, had to be the last 24 hours, that Bergman apparently was able to secure additional money for them. And I thought it said $1 million.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Right. Thanks for the thoroughness of the report.
I have that meeting tonight, so I'll let you know in 2 weeks.
Christie?
Sure. So we hadn't met in a while. So, I went to, the materials management, twice now since we last met. The materials management, we, the one in December, it was kind of shaky. We were kind of basically, saying to Fishback, we need more from you. And they came back and they really gave it. So they came back and they filled out a lot of information. They've had some information, mind you. It came from the state, filled in quite a bit of I don't know, of the plan, mind you. What they're getting from the state isn't good information. For instance, they were talking about how we still have cardboard recycling here in the county, which we don't anymore. And it's just because it's old data. And so Fishback is now having to go through and, change that around. Vilma actually came to the meeting, this last meeting, and she said that actually she was really quite impressed with our 3 counties. Our 3 counties have given the most responses to the surveys. And she thought that was really great, and she gave us a lot of kudos for that. She says it's evident that these 3 counties care about recycling. So she talked about that. She also, we also tried to hone in on the 3 materials that we wanted to focus in on. Because again, on the 12th, in December meeting, we were like, we need to get this decided. And so this last meeting, they brought more numbers to us. Again, even though cardboard and paper are highly recyclable, we aren't doing a lot of that recycling, and it could be because, for instance, in our county, we don't have that service anymore. So we want to focus on that. We wanted to focus on organics, and we kind of knew, I've been talking about this the whole time. Food waste. We Grow Benzie, I believe, used to do some sort of food waste program, and I don't think that they're doing that anymore. So anyway, we've got to look at that and maybe regionalize some of that. They did a whole presentation on organics to us. Traverse City has some programs. They have an organics recycler, Carver's, apparently, and they have little satellites, and they do all kinds of great little things in Traverse City. And so we would like to leverage some of that. However, they're a small local business, and bringing on other counties might overtax them.
It's Carter's Compost, and
Thank
that
you.
kid was like 5 years old when he started that, and he's maybe 15 now. So it would be hard to bring on counties because he's a
Yeah.
kid and his dad helps him oversee it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they're doing a lot of great things in Traverse City. There are little satellites, and they gave us this whole great presentation. Fishback, also, because of who they are, and they know a lot of places around the state, they know another place downstate who would be happy to come up and kind of help us with that as well. So we talked a little bit about that and kind of understanding the state of organics, and it's not great, but it could be doable. So that's kind of where we were with that. What else did we talk about? Yeah, those are the big things. And then we also asked that we kind of have a straw man for food waste, so that Fishback brings us something with timelines and a plan that we can kind of pick apart and maybe add to, subtract from, something to that, something that we can react to instead of trying to come up with something on our own, because we do have food haulers and waste haulers and whatnot, and they have a lot of expertise. But someone like me, I do not. And so basically coming with kind of a plan that we can all kind of pick apart is what we were kind of thinking of. So pretty cool with that. We're seeing some good forward motion. So we're really excited about that. Let's see. I also went to the Crystal Lake Township meeting in December. They are working on some improvements around their township hall. They are redoing their basement. And they're just finishing up those improvements, and they're looking at, and now that some of the trees are gone, they're looking at maybe doing some landscaping around there to make things a little nicer and brighter. That was the big thing with that. I did go to the road commission in December. A couple of things that they talked about in that meeting. One is that their kind of county association, their road county association, there's not a lot of rural representation. And so some of the rural folks were kind of talking about, well, maybe we need to get together and maybe we need to do something so that we have a louder voice in the overall state road commission association. So they're throwing that around. Something else that they talked about was succession planning. So, you know, some spots, how do they replace some key spots that might be leaving, you know, for whatever reason. And so they tried to kind of talk about that and what that might look like. And then, yeah, the organizational meeting, I was there with that, and then I'm here. So, yeah.
Questions or comments for Christie? Gary?
Gonna come all the way over here.
Take the big leap.
All right. Well, back in December, we had a Benzie bus meeting. It's in my report that one board member accused the board chair and the secretary of improper conduct and asked them to resign at that point in time. They asked to possibly form a committee to investigate. To me, that's not how you get things done. Very disappointed in the whole thing, and hopefully that'll get changed this today, Wednesday, when we have our meeting. So, and one of the things they complained about was signing the L4029, the incorrect L4029, even though the entire board voted for them to do so. So, anyway, hopefully this will work out. I don't do so well. Friction, I guess. I don't. Parks and Rec, we decided to spend some of the leftover funds from the master plan, not the leftover funds from the budget, to buy copies of the new master. There'll be some.
We have those in our office.
We have them already? Good. And then I never know if I'm talking about Beulah or Benzonia, but they talked about using one of their, or some of their tennis courts for pickleball. So anyway, I guess that's a popular thing. Joyfield furnace problems. For some reason, they think they're hoping it'll get by till spring. I don't know. Because they came in there, you know, they've got election equipment, everything else. They come in there and it was 50 degrees or something one day. That's probably not too good for those things. So anyway, and they were asked about green burials, and that kind of set me back. I didn't. Would you do that in your backyard? I don't. So anyway, I guess you still have to go through a funeral home, and you have to do all the, you know, paperwork or whatever. I don't know if it's going to be done. It's not allowed at that cemetery. And I imagine somebody said Crystal Lake, it's allowed. I don't know.
I don't know, but I know that green burials are becoming a thing, right? It's so that you're not putting embalming fluid in, you know, the person. so that when it goes into the ground and doesn't decay very well, embalming fluid, isn't going into the ground.
I kind
Yeah.
of took it as more of a way to save some money. And some of the issues with this is the grave actually starts to, as the body decays, it caves in. Because they put them in bags and they put them in old pine boxes and things like that. So
Yes.
maintenance of the thing, I know nobody really wants to hear about that.
I think
Anyway,
there's one or two cemeteries here in Benzie that allow it.
Benzie?
I had a vague conversation about a year ago about it. Yeah.
And then I got a date with Katie here and we went to the road commission.
Even picked me up.
So anyway, that was good. You guys heard all about that. Blaine Township, they're still arguing about cluster housing, which is an accepted use in their zoning. The great news is Chris Hackbarth, came from DTE and discussed the natural gas expansions. And coming from Alberta, I guess I understand what he said, they're gonna try to target both lakes, Lower and Upper Heron. And it sounds like it's gonna happen this spring. Gotta get another question I got for you. We have to get permission from the township to use the accessibility along the roads and stuff, so I really don't see a reason not to. And Chris says he was gonna have a discussion with the tribe over here on Hoadley, so that's probably gonna go through too. To me, that's one of the best things that could happen to the community. Gonna cost me a furnace and a hot water heater and all that stuff, but if I can get them to, they should come to my house, right? Isn't that I don't know. It's exciting. I think it's really a great possibility, so. In the last, let's see here, well, not the last. Mike Mac Ag Environmental Natural Resources, I wish they wouldn't add so much to it. They had a Zoom meeting last Friday, the 9th, and I got the wrong link, so it took me a while to get on. Eventually, their speaker didn't show, so we didn't have that. They talked about, and I already mentioned it, about the funding, road funding. Some of the things will not be funded till 27. And the one thing that really stuck out to me is Ottawa County is having some groundwater issues. I don't know if you've heard this or not. And they've had to re-drill wells. They're drying up. And they're blaming a lot of it on overbuilding and so on and so forth. So I don't know if you'd have to go to some sort of community type system to cover this. Well, it's down in the Holland area. I mean, it's growing fast, but that's the first I'd ever heard of that. So I thought that was interesting. Then the village of Thompsonville last night. I got myself in trouble. We'll talk about that some other time. Anyway, Chuck Kraus came and he had Doug Mansfield with him and they talked about the project going forward there. I don't know what you call it, the railroad tarp crossing. And they've already spent $186,000 and but it sounds like they finally got the campground issue fixed. So it doesn't go your way. A lot of times everybody gets mad, but the health department couldn't approve it because they didn't have a licensed campground there. And guess that problem's been cured. So anyway, moving forward. The other thing was they had a question, I think I brought it up before, where Dollar General wanted a liquor license. The state said you cannot get another liquor license unless you can get one that's been, what you'd call it, hasn't been used, but the people still hold it.
Escrowed.
You could buy one. And supposedly there's one available at Crystal Mountain from something they purchased. I don't know. So I don't see them really.
I don't see Crystal Mountain giving it up.
No, I
Probably
don't.
not.
But just so the Dollar General can sell beer and wine. So they're pursuing that a little bit. Yeah, they go. That's about all I got. Too much.
Questions or comments for Gary?
Two things.
Redevelopment district.
I assume on the Benzie Bus Board that the two people requested to step down didn't.
No.
What's going to happen at this meeting is my first question. And my second question is, could it be appropriate to ask management at Benzie Bus to Zoom this meeting? Or
It's
their
on there
other
now.
meeting?
They've got the, I probably neglected to mention that. They've got the owl, whatever you call it. Oh, I think it is. Is on YouTube. I'm not positive.
Oh, I don't-
You cannot watch it real time. It's recorded and put on
I was saying,
later.
I don't think they have
Put
a
on
YouTube
later?
channel.
Yeah. When
But
they
it-
don't have equipment failure.
Right. Always questionable, but
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if the request has ever been made to Zoom their meeting so it can be viewed in real time.
yes. I don't know if they've reached that point. They got an owl. And the one they've got is supposedly able to do this. I just don't know if it's been taken care of completely.
So in a quick YouTube search, they have a channel now, and the only video on there is your December 10th special meeting.
That was the last meeting we've had.
Yeah. So I don't know if their intent is to continue to upload. I can't tell if it was live. It doesn't tell me. But they've established a YouTube channel, so I don't, maybe they intend to continue to upload videos.
I think that's.
I'm not
their
sure.
intent.
But
And
December
what-
10th
and-
is
and
on
the
there.
first part of my question was, what action is going to be taken at this next meeting regarding that request?
The board agreed, or enough of them agreed, that they would pursue it at this meeting to set up a committee. And possibly set up a committee, pursue that. Not saying they would. And there's a lot of misinformation out there about going on and things like that, but both of them refused to resign. I don't blame them. There's no reason. Personally, there's no reason for what's going on there right now. The objective is to run a board, make sure the Benzie Bus is running efficiently and financially responsible and things like that. This infighting has to come to an end. And hopefully it will. But they have every right to do an investigation if they want to. I will find out tomorrow night.
But tomorrow night, the agenda item is to discuss whether they even want to form a committee or not.
Right, they're not gonna go any farther than forming a committee if they go that far.
And this is asking them to step down from their officer positions, not the board.
Right, not as membership board.
Thank you.
Just for the record, they can't ask them to step down from the board. Well, they can ask them, but that responsibility of removal and appointment stays with this body here, not with the BTA.
I wanted you board to be aware of what's going on, the best of my ability, which is not always the greatest, but yeah. So anyway, something to think about.
Other comments or questions for Gary? The only thing that regarding the BTA that I would like to add is this has been an ongoing issue since May. And it's driven pretty much by one board member. And unfortunately, some of us have been dragged into this. We have not reported out to the board because we're trying to keep it within the BTA authority. But it's risen to the level now that we thought we should make you aware of it. All right, if there's nothing else, Gary.
Yep.
Len.
Okay. So I've had one committee so far. I managed to go to the meeting last Thursday. Was the Central Dispatch Advisory Board. That was a lot of fun. We had enough people for quorum, so life was good. we held elections and Sheriff Rosa was elected the chair, vice chair, Chief McGurr, and our secretary was our director, Corey. We set the meeting schedule for 2026. That was fun. Had some discussion about our state troopers. It sounds like we have a number of probationary new troopers and 2 of our resident, I guess, experienced troopers. They're looking for a third. So if you know anybody that's an experienced state trooper that wants to come up here, please make that call. Thompsonville, we discussed real quick how the EMS and the fire department merged, except for the finance areas had to do with millage areas you can't use. If we're helping out Manistee County, we can't use our Benzie dollars for that. And it sounds like there's a significant portion of calls that do go to Manistee. Somewhere between, they said it was over a third, but under half. So somewhere in between, there's a sweet spot for that. Then we finally discussed what's going to happen. This was more an administrative meeting the other day. We're going to get into the policies and procedures in more depth at our next meeting on March 12th. More to come on that. Also went to the Inland Township meeting yesterday. A whole lot of things going on. The Eagle report was talked about as well, one we mentioned earlier today. There was a question about the fire department equipment millage. The more they kind of got into the discussion, the more they decided that it was too much for this meeting and that they should go back with the information they did have. And they postponed that to the next meeting. So that was fairly wise on that. Talked about the MTA conference and they approved who could attend. And how it would be paid for and how meals would be covered and all that kind of stuff. So I got into detail a little bit about that conference coming up in April. Also talked about, apparently there's a camera on one of the fire trucks that they've been trying to string along for the last couple of years with every trick under the book, and it finally failed on them together. So they approved a near $6,000 camera. And again, I guess this also has to do with liability, because the one they have in the front didn't really work. And if they got in some kind of accident, they couldn't record it or report down the road, that kind of thing. So that was discussed. Other than that, that's pretty much it for me.
Questions or comments for Len? Well, that was certainly more than you had at the last.
Now wait till the next meeting. I'm at 5 or 6 boards. Committees under me.
7.
We devote all our time to Rhonda. so
Yes.
You get a fraction of that.
All right. Fair enough.
See if you can outdo her, will you?
Not a chance.
Tim?
Homestead Township Board meeting, nothing real of significance going on, just starting to work on the budget, doing some building, maintenance stuff. Central Wellness Network Board met twice, covered that thoroughly. I already got to speak on that as well. NMRE SUD, the Northern Michigan Regional Entity Substance Use Disorder Oversight Committee. There was one grant requested, which did not include Benzie or Manistee. Village of Honor meeting, I did miss that last night, but I did submit a report from the read during their meeting.
Questions or comments for Tim? There's just a couple things that I want to highlight on my report. As you know, it was in your packet. I want to talk a moment about the EDC initiative. The partnership that we have with the Benzie County Chamber, and they're referring to that board now as the EDO, the Economic Development Organization, so that we can distinguish it between the county's EDC, because we fully intend to continue to leave the documents in place for our EDC, which is now meeting only on a quarterly basis, with a meeting coming up this Friday. But an executive director has been hired now. Their first meeting will be tomorrow. Very talented, well qualified. We had a number of applicants. 2 of them that we interviewed both of them were highly qualified, just simply with some tweaks in their talent. I think that this commission is not going to be disappointed in your investment. I'm going to talk on something that Gary talked about with DTE, and we've had conversations here, if you remember, with DTE about going down Homestead, etc. There's been private conversations that have taken place. What we're looking for with the economic development is long-term planning. A lot of this is a 20 to 40-year vision, but we know that we need to have short-term accomplishments. And things like working with the utility companies, becoming developer ready, et cetera, are the things that they'll focus on so that within 18 months they can come back and specifically talk about a tangible accomplishment. It's my goal to have that executive director before this group in the next 60 days. And they will be meeting with the EDC, who they're reporting to indirectly this Friday. If you have other questions, I'd be happy to answer, but a lot more information to come as it unwinds. And I just do want to mention that in the last year, I've taken it upon myself to reach out to some select communities. Frankfurt, Joanne and I spend at least every 45 days, not to circumvent your role, all right? But I thought it was important that we had an open door working relationship. I noticed she was at the meeting today. For me, I think that it's reaped some benefits. And I know Katie, you spend time with her and Josh also. But those are the kinds of things that I believe we need to continue to have a community outreach on. And when I report to you that I've participated in conversations, I don't elaborate on those, but the goal is about networking. That's all. There's no questions for myself. Katie, I believe we have your report.
Yeah, so just a few things from myself. The Government Center will be closed on Monday. Monday is Martin Luther King Day. So for the community, this building will be closed this coming Monday. Tomorrow night, we do have our Tax Limitation Advisory Committee meeting at 5:30 in this room. It will be streamed live on YouTube and held there if you want to watch later. But as you recall, this body declined the recommendation that was made by them and sent it back to them for further discussion. So we are meeting tomorrow night at 5:30 in this room for the Tax Limitation Advisory Committee. Our new animal control officer, as I mentioned earlier, her name is Madison Leishman. She has received the certificate of completion from MDARD. MDARD has a 100-hour program that is put forward for new animal control officers to ensure that they know the ins and outs of being an animal control officer in Michigan. And she has completed that and very soon will be started doing the normal animal control type responses and enforcement for Benzie County. So very exciting there. She's been a great asset to the team. We did spend yesterday doing W-2s, and so everyone should be either have or be receiving their W-2s from Benzie County here pretty soon. So we're really excited to have gotten those out the door before the last day. Sometimes it's the last day, but it's okay. The DHHS lease, as you recall, a couple of months ago, we talked a little bit about that. Jennifer Savage was here. I wrote back to them saying, hey, we're open to have conversations, and did request that they come to a meeting to be part of some, discussions. They so far have declined to come in person. They did ask if they could do it via remote. I did say, I suppose so. They were invited to today's study session and there was no response. I will try to get them here in February. But at this point, I'm kind of leaving it in their court. They're the ones who want the space and want to renew the lease. We've set our expectations, and so I'm just waiting to hear back from them, but no response since my last email to them after our last meeting. So it is what it is. Art had asked me to go over at this meeting some of the outside activities and memberships that I'm part of to promote Benzie County and to just network and build the network around my office as well as the county. And so some of the things that I'm involved in, one of them is local. It's the Corridor Improvement Authority. I am on that committee for the Village of Honor in an official capacity, not just as a representative. That committee, we've had a couple of meetings now, and they're really working on right now. We're coming up with kind of a slogan, a brand, a name for the Corridor Improvement Authority, because we can't walk around and say we're part of the CIA, although I would really like to. It doesn't make sense. And when people hear Corridor Improvement Authority, one, they don't know what it means, or two, they think taxes. And so we're trying to come up with some sort of, name, slogan, and just, really market what the Corridor Improvement Authority could do for the Village of Honor. So we're working through that. Some of the other things that I'm involved in is MACO, the Michigan Association of County Administrative Officers. I do serve as a board of director on that association for county administrators across Michigan. I'm also part of the National Association of Counties, as well as the National Association of County Administrators. I'm also part of the Michigan Municipal League and the Michigan Municipal Executives. I am also an elected board of director for the Michigan Municipal Executives in Michigan. And finally, I'm involved in the International City County Managers Association as well. Those are some of the official capacities that I'm working through. I go to Rotary every year. I go to the Frankfurt Rotary and the Sunrise Rotary just to give an update onto what's going on in Benzie County and what we're doing. I'm also officially serving on the advisory council for Benzie Central Schools now as well. And just being not only the community liaison, but a parent liaison as well, and just giving my feedback when it comes to the Benzie Central Schools and what that means for Benzie County. And then any other organization that reaches out and wants me to speak or present, I consider those. You'll recall, I believe it was last summer, the summer before, I was at Crystal Mountain a couple times presenting on our broadband project and Internet for All and what that project means. And then next week, I will be at the Michigan Municipal Executives Winter Workshop at the Grand Traverse Resort. And we'll be speaking also about long-term planning and budgeting and what that means for local governments. I'll be meeting after hours with a group of about 50 other leaders around the state. And we're going to be having kind of a think tank about, what can we do to support new managers and new administrators in Michigan, and, what that would mean then for our local governments as well. That's kind of all I have other than personal activities that I do. Any questions for me?
You have time to sleep?
So no, I do sleep sometimes though.
Our county at a glance. in
Yes,
your
that
book.
should be, I'm hoping to have those in your boxes by the end of this week.
And is there I think we've talked about this before, but I wanted to ask why the Benzie bus millage isn't on the column with county millages?
Because it's not a county millage. They are their own taxing authority and they approve that on their own. They're not, they're not a subsidiary unit like the road commission, for instance, we hold their funds.
Yep.
The Maple's the same. They're
Thank
their
you.
own taxing
I knew
authority.
you had answered that in the past, but I couldn't remember.
Yeah. And I think that's where things got muddy along the way because we used to include that in some of the other ones. And it got really muddy in the community because they all assume then that the buck stops with you. When in reality, you really don't have a say over the transit authority and the airport authority and what their dollars are. You don't have a say in that. And so to me, it was an unfair picture to the rest of the community because they then put the onus on you when really you don't have any sort of say in those things.
Thank you.
Speaking of that, should we do something separate for those two entities? Because taxpayers are paying for both. So they should be aware to the extent that the county board really has very little oversight on it.
But in terms of reporting out for them, Gary, that's their responsibility. They're their own authority.
We do include it on the county at a glance. It's not on the county millages, but it's on the back page, the Benzie bus, but the airport isn't on here.
Yeah. The airport's never been on there. I don't know why. I don't know when you implemented the budget as a glances. Much pre me. So I don't know why you didn't include the airport authority, for instance, or
We will
some of
look at
those
that
things.
Next year.
Yeah.
Adding that in, because I do think it's a good
think
tool
it's a
for
good
to help
idea.
people who want to have an understanding of what's going on. And so
Yeah.
when I'm asked that question, why isn't the Benzie bus in this column? I'm prepared to answer it.
Yep. They're their own taxing authority.
And it started under Mitch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know why you didn't include some of the authorities and, every year I'm open to make it look different. Honestly, it's a very fluid document. And so if we want to include different sections or try to add to it, we're a little limited on space. But if there's other things we want to try to add, absolutely.
Sounds good.
Other questions or comments for Katie? Then I just want to add, I'd ask Katie to kind of outline for you what her outside activities are. Because as you can see, it's pretty extensive. Although I have not found it to be an interruption for you meeting your day-to-day responsibilities. So clearly you're doing some of that on your own time. But it's important that we have that influence. And I applaud all of you. I think everybody sitting here may be on some MAC board or committee. I know that our other elected officials are involved in all of this. Benzie County is very small, but we want to do big things and we need to have this influence. So that's why I asked you to lay that out. If there's nothing else for Katie, you have your correspondence in the file. And we'll move to our last public input.
Annie Browning from 30 Grove Place. I just wanted to share my perspective on today's meeting. I thought it was really encouraging. I like that it seemed like you've moved beyond you don't know what you don't know. Now, not you, but like specifically the Benzie Conservation District and Central, they're getting a handle on what they don't know. We're working with researchers, and that's kind of the way that works. So I found it encouraging. Transitioning to me myself, here's something a little personal story. I didn't know what I didn't know about medical marijuana. And because they're like high dose edibles now, I consumed a little bit too much. And I say too much because yeah. Came down with cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, CHS. I'd never heard of it, but it's on the Cleveland Clinic website. So I take it to be an actual thing. Anyway, the consequences of it was I was vomiting and dry heaving and nauseous all the time for like 7 days straight. And I just quit. The only solution to it is to quit cold turkey. And so that's what I did. And so it kind of has waned away. I mean, it can take days or weeks to actually feel normal again, but I'm feeling much better. Anyway, it's interesting because I never heard about that. I thought there were no guardrails on consuming cannabis for me. And unfortunately, like companies that are marketing cannabis are like, you should consume more, you can consume more, you consume more. And anyway, now there's a guardrail for me. And so I'm sharing that from a public health perspective. So thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Eric?
Eric Van Duzen, Benzonia. Might have answered some of these questions I have during your meeting. I was in and out, but the MAC December magazine that you referred to, Art, a little bit ago, I looked it up and it says at one of the headings, why did MAC bid on MDHHS Specialty Behavioral Services, Health Services RFP? Do you know? I mean, you can read it, but it's a bunch of information that doesn't get to when and why. And I'm wondering, there's no minutes of MAC's meetings on their website. As a member, are you entitled to the meetings? Like, when do they start discussing this? They say September, they just saw the writing on the wall, so they had to submit it. When was the actual 501c3 formed? That would probably be helpful because they probably voted to do that. So you might want to get this last year of minutes from MAC. And second of all, the RFPs, they went out for submitted bids for all three regions that were newly formed. You should be entitled to those RFPs. Some people have been trying to FOIA, or some entities have been trying to FOIA all of the bids that have been submitted unsuccessfully, it's my understanding. But that you're a member of MAC. Your representative, maybe you should call him in here to explain this process, because this county wasn't involved in this process. Central Wellness, as my understanding, wasn't involved in this process. Northern Lakes regional entity wasn't involved or consulted by MAC getting involved in this process and submitting these bids to the RFP. So this newsletter said that in late September, they made this decision. I call BS. And until proven otherwise, I think you all should be calling BS and get to the facts. And you have the ability to. MAC is not FOIA-able. They are not, to my understanding, even though you pay dues with public dollars, it might arguably be subject to FOIA. I don't know, but I think you have the easiest route to get at this information by demanding the minutes for the last year and demanding copies of the bids that they submitted to the state. Thank you.
Thanks for your interest. Any other public comments? You got
Get the
about 30
nonprofits,
seconds.
get the nonprofits bylaws, the newly formed MAC Behavioral Health Network 501(c)(3). Who are their board members and where are their bylaws? Thank you.
We have all their board members.
For the
For the 501(c)(3).
Oh, I don't know about
The
that.
behavioral health.
I thought you meant the MAC. board.
Not the MAC.
Okay, thank you.
Newly formed.
I wasn't supposed to talk.
Any other public comment? And before we close, Rose, I just want to thank you for your willingness to serve on the Parks Board. I think this is the first opportunity you've had in a volunteer position. Am I right? I hope it's a good experience for you.
Thank you.
I'd move for adjournment. So moved.
Support.
All those in favor signify by saying